History is about to be made as Jan Grankvist can wrap up his first GPVWC championship today, and probably will. My name is Caitlin Penny. I'm going to be joined by Ryan Elliott in the commentary box today. And of course, the cameras, the sights, and the sounds that you're seeing are going to be provided by our broadcast director, Vincent Gutt. Welcome to round 14 of the 2024 GPVWC Super League Championship. Ryan, we're in store for something quite special today, aren't we?
We most certainly are. What a venue to potentially wrap up this GPVWC Championship, Super League Championship, sorry. And what a way to do it under the lights. Singapore, always my least favourite track, probably on the calendar as a driver, but to watch, absolutely love it.
Absolutely, me too. And I have to admit, I actually really do enjoy it as a driver as well. There have been times in my life where I haven't said that, but I think that it's really, really suiting me now. And quite a fun place to go racing all in all. In terms of weather, we've been talking about it all week long because there have been some of the support races that have been affected by weather. It looks as if it should be dry today, which will be a bit of a sigh of relief for some of these drivers because this track is very difficult when there's a bit of dampness. As you can see, absolutely no margin for error, because if you make a mistake, the walls are right there to catch you. It is a true street circuit for almost all of its length, and you have tight corners like this where braking is at the absolute most importance as well. We're currently watching the start of qualifying. It will be a 15-minute session to determine where they start on the grid, as always. And as always, it is a single person qualifying session, so if you are on the track you will not be able to see any other cars and they won't be able to affect you with slipstream or turbulent air or anything like that. We're currently watching the man of the minute. This is Jan Grankvist about to start his first flying lap, and Jan, as I said before, is almost definitely going to be crowned champion today. I say that because he just needs to finish in the top 9 in order to completely put it beyond mathematical reach for any other driver. That is because there are 52 points up for grabs after this race, with only 2 points left in the championship, 25 points for a win and 1 point for fastest lap, and he is currently leading the championship by 71 points. So if he was to finish in the top 9 and score 7 points, he would take himself completely out of mathematical reach. His opponents, the 2 drivers who could still theoretically take the championship away from him, are Tom Stevens of THR and Mark Schluter of Edge Esports. Here is Mark Schluter currently on his first flying lap. He would need to win today, I believe. Yes, that is indeed the case, because he is 74 points behind. So if he does not win today's Grand Prix, then he will be out of mathematical contention. And Tom Stevens must finish in the top 2. Now, all of those parameters that I've just said, they are technically possible, of course, because if Jan Grankvist was to have an accident today or was to have a disconnection and scored no points as a result, and Mark Schluter was to win the race with Tom Stevens second, then we would still theoretically have 3 people in championship contention, as Schluter slightly brushes the barrier there but gets away with it. But realistically, that's not going to happen, and at any stage in the season, those parameters have not been met, because the only time that Jan Grankvist finished outside of the top 9 in a race was at Canada, and on that occasion, Schluter was second with Stevens in 5th position. So, Ryan, what will Jan be feeling today's race? Will he be feeling a lot of pressure about this, or will he be able to remind himself, actually, all I've got to do is drive a decent race and I've got it?
I think if he's done the maths, the pressure's off, really. But you know, when it's such a simple job at hand for him, theoretically, it sometimes just doesn't come off. You know, like he's been obviously the best driver so far this season overall, right? And then you'd think a P8 or P9 would be easy, but sometimes it can come quite difficult when you know that you've got that. Not even that it's pressure, you might not be feeling pressure, but sometimes it just just happens. Who knows? He could have like a Canada all over again where he was absolutely nowhere, just out of the blue. But you know, he's got a strong car, knows what he needs to do. I think the trickiest thing around a street circuit like this will just be keeping it clean, to be honest. We even saw, you know, Lando Norris in real life when he was leading the race here. He was pretty close to just smacking walls even when he was 25 seconds down the road or whatever it was. So you keep his nose clean, get through lap 1, lap 2, and kind of settle into a rhythm, and yeah, you should have it. And it, obviously good strategy as well, sorry.
Yeah, that is entirely true, but at the same time, even if we did have an exact repeat of Canada, he would still wrap up the championship today, and even if it was worse than Canada for him, he's still got 2 more opportunities to wrap it up at COTA and Interlagos. So there you see our live standings on the bottom right. They will be manually updated by our broadcast director Vincent Gutt throughout the course of the race, so you'll be able to see exactly how things stand. You can see the championship standings: Granqvist, Stevens and Schluter, the 3 drivers technically in contention, and then Robin Panzer is 4th in the standings, Adam Maguire is 5th, and Carlos Martin 6th, although he is actually not racing today. He will be replaced by Shimon Frelich, making his first GPWC Super League start in 2 years. He's done 3 Grand Prix previously back in 2022 and is currently running 2nd in the Super Lights Championship. 7th in the championship is Jarl Tyen, and we'll get on to a story involving him in a minute. 8th in the championship is Matthias Moos, but he too is not racing today. He is being replaced by Alex Lahoud, and we have to say congratulations, Alex, for wrapping up the Super Lights Championship 2 days ago at this very circuit, so he should be one to look out for today. Then 9th in the championship, Owen McGorgy. 10th in the championship is Jan's teammate Jakub Egalalu, and Jan is about to complete what looks to be a good lap as he comes across the line and does go to the top of the times by just over a quarter of a second. A 1:27.193 is the time to beat. Very good time indeed. Here we see Stein Hangraf. But yeah, just before we really start focusing on the qualifying session, a couple more headlines to go over. If you'd seen the last Grand Prix, or you've seen the highlights for the last Grand Prix, you'll know that there was a bit of a question mark over the results at the end of the race. Jarl Tyen here crossed the line in 1st position, but he had quite clearly punted Mark Schluter earlier on in proceedings, and we were questioning whether he would be allowed to keep his win or not. He was not allowed to keep his win. He was handed a time penalty, which dropped him to 2nd, and that means that Owen McGorgy was given his 2nd race victory of the season, and rightfully so. But obviously drivers make mistakes, so that's no criticism of Jarl Tyen himself, even though I think that the right decision was reached to strip him of that victory. So that's one of those headlines. The other headlines that I were going to bring up, of course, are the replacements: Shimon Frelich subbing in for Carlos Martin, and of course Alex Lahoud subbing in for Matthias Moos, having wrapped up the championship. A couple of drivers who weren't able to race last time out have returned. So Istvang Singel is back. Chris Shepherd, I think, missed a race recently. He's on the grid. And aside from that, we have our regularly scheduled lineup, with Fabio Sixter here making his 2nd start of the season and going to 8th position. So now let's focus on the qualifying session. Granqvist currently at the top of the times, but Ryan, I just saw a very impressive lap from Sergio Fletcher there. He's gone to 2nd place.
Yeah, so somebody in the chat saying Granqvist was flexing his muscles with, you know, nearly a 3/10 gap, but Fletcher bringing that margin down ever so slightly. Maybe Granqvist now is thinking he's not quite untouchable as he thought he might have been. But it was a cracking lap quite early on in the session as well, so he can almost relax a little bit now and focus really hard on getting another couple of good laps in before the end of the session, try to improve. But it must be a good feeling knowing he was able to get that good a time and that big a margin at that point in the session that early on. So very, very impressive. Good to see Fabio up there as well. Obviously, like you said, making a return after what I believe was some sort of incident on a bike. So really, really happy to see him having a good outing so far in this qualifying session.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly what happened. He actually returned at the last Grand Prix, but unfortunately retired, which seems to be quite a staple of Fabio Sixter's GPWC career. And Now we're watching Moritz Kropp as he comes into the pits, and that is nothing to be worried about. It's simply that if you don't make it back to the pits, then you're not able to go back onto the road again. And really, it's all about timing that final flying lap. When the track's at its most rubbered in, the drivers are at their pushiest, and the cars should be at their fastest later on in the sessions, as is usually the case. So currently the standings, Jan Granqvist at the top of the times, followed by Sergio Fletcher, Adam Maguire, Shimon Frelich and Alex Lahoe, the top 5. So 2 of our replacement drivers there in the top 5 with Frelich and Lahoe. And look at Jan Granqvist now as he starts this lap of the brilliantly difficult Singapore circuit, the second slowest average speed circuit on the calendar, one of the tightest tracks that you can get. And you can see as he bounces off the barrier there on the exit of turn 4. I don't think that will cost him much, but he needs to make sure that he doesn't hit it any harder than that. Ryan, why don't you talk us around a bit more of the... Ooh, big twitch from Jan. What did he do wrong there?
Clearly ever slightly just lit the rears up. Obviously, curves here have a little bit of a drop over the edge as well, so if you even just drop a tyre over that back side of the curb, you can just ever so slightly lose the rear tyre. It's so impressive how they can have so much commitment on the street circuits like this. Even for myself, who I like to think is not too bad a driver, coming to street circuits like this, I'm so intimidated all the time. But these guys in GPVWC Super League, well, through all the divisions of GPVWC, sorry, are just so committed on a circuit like this. And especially Singapore, I just seem to get lost. It feels just different to Monaco and like Baku, or even Miami now as well. What we've got in real life. And this final corner, wow, what a crazy amount of commitment. We see people get caught out every single time, and he does improve that lap to stretch the gap to now 0.2 of a second back to Sergio Fletcher.
I'm amazed, actually. Yeah, well, it was a couple of mistakes, wasn't it? Because he touched the wall, he was running close to the barriers, he ended up kicking out the tail over the curbs, so I wasn't expecting that to be an improvement, but it was, and quite a considerable one as well, as we now see Mark Schluter coming back into the pits and setting up for a very important final run. It is very difficult to overtake here. And there is Alex Lahoe running in 5th position. I tell you what, he is absolutely one to look out for today. Not just because this is the circuit where he wrapped up the Superleague Championship by finishing 3rd the other day, but also because we know he's good at street circuits. In Superleague in Saudi Arabia at the start of the year, he won. In Azerbaijan just a few weeks ago, he won there as well. He actually drove the Super League race back at Saudi and finished 4th in that, his best result in Super League to this day. And I don't think it's much of a surprise at all that he's currently running in 5th position, and I really do think he's going to be a contender today. As now we watch Fabio Sixter coming towards the end of the lap and into the little chicane. This chicane, much more of a heavy braking zone than it used to be. They've removed the fiddly little section that goes under the grandstand and used to be a real staple of the circuit. And Fabio Sixter goes up into 4th position. So demotes Shimon Frelich, who only recently moved up into that position himself, I believe, and demotes Alex Lahoe as a result. And Fabio Sixter, I'm always a little... I always like to rib on him a little bit because of his retirement record. He does tend to retire from races quite a lot, but a lot of the time that's not his fault, and he is a very, very quick driver, Ryan.
He's super quick. He's a multiple race winner in Super League back in the day with Red Archer, but his record for internet PC issues is just crazy. But my one key takeaway from this session so far, with just over a minute left on the clock, Schluter P8 and Stevens P14, Granqvist P1.
They've got time to improve it. They're on track now. They're both on out laps. And this is the point in the session that really, really matters. So definitely do not expect them to stay there. But if they did, it would be even more of a breath of fresh air for Jan Granqvist, and he could basically cruise home to the championship. Right, we're looking at Tom Stevens now. the second place driver in the championship, the winner of several Grand Prix this season, the driver who would have been the favourite, the championship favourite coming into this year. He won in Spain, he won in Belgium, but the last time out in Azerbaijan, he was not able to achieve a podium, was only 5th position, which is why Jan Grankvist is in the position that he's in right now. We're watching him through the middle sector of the circuit. Slightly missed the apex, but didn't hit the wall on the exit. I think he'll be able to convert that into a good straight line speed. And then down into the left-hander with the big curb. Another big twitch there. That's one of the trickiest corners on the circuit. Catches all types of drivers out. And he needs to make sure that it doesn't catch him out, because this is his last opportunity. This is the last opportunity that anyone will get now with the checkered flag out and waiting for the drivers. There really aren't that many improvements currently being set. Tom Stevens does need to improve his time in the second sector. His first sector wasn't great. The only reason he's continuing this lap is because he knows he won't get another chance. DRS opens for the second time in the lap. He goes around a 90-degree right-hander and towards that heavy braking zone for the chicane that I spoke about before. Previously, they would have been jinking off to the right there for that fiddly little section under the grandstand. But now he's just got one more corner to do. How close can he get himself to the front of the field? He twitches and he Carlos Sainz's his way into the barriers. So Tom Stevens will start 14th position at best. What a disaster for one of the main protagonists in this year's championship. We've got improvements going on. Schluter goes third. Yaltayan is 4th. Here's Owen McGorgy. He's got time to be found. Coming through the final corner, out towards the line, P3. Owen McGorgy goes P3, the winner of the last Grand Prix. Robin Pansar goes 11th and spins his way across the line. And it looks as if that might be it in terms of the top times. Potentially an improvement coming in from Stein Hangraf, Heiko Poom as well, although it won't be anywhere near the leaders. And he's in the pits. So that means that Jan Grankvist will be on pole position here on what will effectively be his victory tour in the 2024 GPVWC Super League Championship. Sergio Fletcher, an incredible performance to go second on the grid. And Owen McGorgy, the winner of the last Grand Prix, is third alongside Mark Schluter, who has it all to gain today. And there is the order. It's Grankvist, Fletcher, McGorgy, Schluter, Tyen, Maguire, Sixter, Frelick, Lahu, and Wach. So both of the replacements that I mentioned earlier, Frelick and Lahu, getting into the top 10. Great qualifying for both of those drivers. There is Robin Pansar, Jakub-Pekka Lalu, Jeffrey Fournier, Daniel Stepkowski. Tom Stevens is only 15th position after that crash that we just saw. What a shame for him, but he's only got himself to blame. Pascal Pollens 16th, then Moritz Kropp, Chris Shepard, Zolt Schukes, and Stein Handgraf. And then we move on to the final page of the grid. Istvang Singel, Philip Pushke, Heiko Poom, Remco de Zur, Dennis Urban, Alexander Ragosa, and Dylan Fisher, who was unable to set a lap time. We're still missing both of the Virtual Drivers by TX3 cars who pulled out of the championship. Well, all but pulled out of the championship recently. And then there's one other car missing, and I'll try to work out who that is while we go for a quick break during warm-up. But before we do, Ryan, my goodness, Tom Stevens, he'll be beating himself up over that one.
Such an easy thing to do. We've seen it so much, and I'd even mentioned it on one of the previous laps that we were watching of Jan Grankvist. Yeah, it doesn't take much, does it? Super high commitment corner like that, and he'll seriously be kicking himself. And the worst bit is, he was one place outside of getting that free option tyre as well.
Yeah, you're right. He probably would have rather qualified 16th. But
yeah,
anyway.
16th. Try to do something different, but that's just how it goes, unfortunately. And we've seen him race forward, so I don't doubt that you can't do something special. And Schluter P4 is still pretty good, all things considered. He can definitely do something from there. But obviously, he can go forward, but obviously Grankvist has to go quite far backwards.
So before we go for a quick break, Menno Klunt has updated me that it's the other Pescara car that's missing, so thanks Menno for updating me on that. There is still an opportunity for them to join in, of course, but it sounds like that might not be a thing that's being planned. Also, there was a YouTube poll saying, can Grankvist clinch the championship today? 95% of people said yes, that would be my guess as well. 4% of people apparently said no, although that math doesn't add up, so I think someone's got to teach YouTube a little bit of arithmetic. Anyway, we're going to go for a quick break, and we will be back just in time for the start of the 62 laps of racing here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Marina Bay Street Circuit for the 2024 Super League Singapore Grand Prix. This is a place that always produces history, both in the real world and the world of virtual racing. It was the first real-life night race in Grand Prix racing, and here in GPVWC it's seen its fair share of historical moments as well. Remember last year where Tom Stevens and Jake Dennehan came together while fighting for the championship. That was a decisive moment in what would turn out to be quite an entertaining scrap right to the end. And this year, of course, it could see Jan Granqvist wrap up his first GPVWC championship in fantastic style. We're currently in a warm-up session. We will be getting ready for the start very shortly. You can see 3 minutes and 10 seconds, as near as makes no difference, on the clock. And then, of course, we have a minute for the drivers to get themselves onto the grid and get ready for the start of the race, followed by a formation lap where we will see the drivers line up in their rightful starting order. I don't think there are any penalties outstanding for today, but if there are, they will be applied to the grid order before the formation lap, and then we will be underway for 62 laps of racing here at the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm still joined by my cameraman Vincent Gutt, who is providing you with all of the sights and sound and the stream that you are watching right now. And of course, Ryan Elliott, who has been alongside me for the majority of this season. Ryan, just a few minutes to go before the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm interested in strategy here because we have the same tyre compounds that we had last time out in Azerbaijan, and we really didn't see that many pit stops at Azerbaijan. So are we expecting a similar tale today?
Great question. I would suggest probably more dead ground here. The corners are quite intense, a lot of high-speed stuff as well as, you know, big stop-starts where you're having to get onto the throttle, and, you know, it's quite easy to spin up the tyres, so be a lot of managing with the rear, I imagine, around here. I should really do some laps in these cars before every race and try and work things out myself. But yeah, I always found it quite hard to drive around here in general, let alone manage my tyres in a Super League car for 62 laps. So I'm not sure I'd be the best person to ask.
That's fair enough, fair enough. One thing to consider is that this tends to be one of the longest Grand Prix on the calendar in terms of time, just because obviously most of the Grand Prix are set to the same sort of distance, and this one is quite slow in terms of its average speed. So as a result of that, it does tend to be longer than the others. Of course, we have a max of 2 hours, but realistically, we're not going to get anywhere near that. That would only be applicable if we were to get heavy rain, or in the case of real-life racing, if you had too many safety car periods or anything like that. But of course, here in GPVWC, that is not something that can happen. So we will definitely get it done in maybe an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 45. But that is longer than a lot of the other races on the calendar, so potentially 2 pit stops today for the tyres. As you say, quite a rear limited circuit. They're braking down to quite slow speeds and then accelerating quite hard. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing 2 stop strategies today, with maybe some people trying to take advantage of how difficult it is to overtake here and going for a 1-stop strategy. Ryan, in terms of car development, we're very late on in the season. We're at the point where the cars would be bringing in possibly their very last upgrades for the year. Who's looking strong in your eyes?
I think the strongest car for almost all the season so far has been the likes of Edge. They've had, you know, a strong car really a lot of the season so far, but a lot of teams are backing out. They actually only just have a slightly lower spec car than the likes of THR, Super Venturi, but the strongest car of all in Nocturne and Adonis in this round. You can definitely see where there's, you know, teams in the 500s and then a few that have had to give up earlier. Pescara, Geeks are on there, all in the 400s, Zortax, for example. neither team's obviously quite new to the series, that don't quite have the budget of some of the other teams. But the amount of sponsorship that you were able to raise at the start of the year, you only get a certain amount coming in as a new team as well for the fixed fee. So a lot of them prefer to kind of start saving money ahead of a big second year or third year campaign instead.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Those numbers that you've just heard are the research and development points that the teams are able to put into individual parts of their car. They can upgrade downforce, they can reduce drag, they can make the cars punchier, and they can increase the power of the engines and things like that. So it's one of the unique selling points of the championship, the fact that we do have this development race that goes on throughout the course of the season, as well as the races that we see on the track. So the checkered flag is now out on the warm-up session. We do not have long to wait before the start of the Grand Prix. We just have 3 more Grand Prix, including this one, before the end of the year. And every Grand Prix that happens now is just as important as any of the others, possibly more important in terms of how the drivers and teams actually feel about it. I'm just going to quickly cover the teams' championship standings, because we haven't mentioned that so far today. But it is Super Venturi just about hanging on to that lead, but only by 11 points over THR, who have been stronger recently. So there really is a championship race on there, even if it's all but over in the Drivers' Championship. So THR second in that, TOP Esports in third position. They, of course, have Shimon Frelick racing for them today. Adonis Esports are in fourth position, but there's a great scrap there with Edge Esports, who are just 1 point behind them in fifth. So now we are lining up on the grid. You can see the cars kind of appearing and disappearing. That's just the simulator doing its thing. And now they're all on the grid, so we should see them head away for the formation lap, and we'll be able to show you the full and updated starting order for the full grid of 27 cars. Let's take a look at the starting order if we can. Jan Grangfist, championship leader, will be going off of pole position alongside Sergio Fletcher. The rookie Sergio Fletcher doing an amazing job in second. Owen McGorgy is third, followed by Mark Schluter, then Jarl Tyen and Adam Maguire, who crashed at the last Grand Prix and will be hoping for an improvement. Fabio Sixter, P7, then Shimon Frelick, P8. Good job for TOP Esports. Alex Lahu is 9th, our Super Lights champion. Then Tomasz Vok, Robin Pansar, and Jakub Lalu, the second Super Venturi car, only able to score 12th position in qualifying. Jeffrey Fournier is 13th, then it's Daniel Stepkowski. Tom Stevens, only 15th after crashing on his last qualifying lap, which didn't look too impressive anyway. And Pascal Pollens, P16. Then it's Moritz Kropp, Zolt Schukes, Chris Shepard, and Stein Handgraf down in 20th place. Remember, points only go down to 15th position, so these drivers are the ones with it all to do. Isfang Singal is P21, then it's Philip Pushke, Heigo Poom, and Remco de Joux. Philip Pushke in the Zortax there, former champion of GPVWC. Then it's Urban 25th, then Alexander Ragosa and Dylan Fisher, and the only car that we were expecting today but haven't got is the second Pescara ADG car, which was supposed to be George Zalagianis. So those are our 27 cars. We had 30 who started the year. Of course, we lost the Virtual Drivers by TX3 team for unexplained reasons a couple of rounds ago. But even so, that's plenty of drivers to go racing with, especially on a track as tight as this. And Ryan, I'm starting to get very excited, but these drivers have got to calm their nerves, because there is no margin for error, especially when they're all as tightly packed as they will be at the start.
Yeah, everyone will be super tight sort of driving style for the first lap or two. And then when you start to get into the rhythm and get a little bit of space to yourself, that's when you can really start to focus on what's coming up ahead. You know, it's a long, like you said, it's a long race, this one. Really quite easy to make a mistake and have your night ruined, so they'll just have to kind of loosen off, stop driving so tensely, and just try and find space. If you can just get a little bit of space to yourself, focus on what you're doing and not other people trying to pressure you, then you should be in for a good run.
Onto the grid we go. Get your predictions in the chat. Will Jan Grankvist win, or will someone take his crown? Here come the lights, and when they go out, we will be underway, and off we go. A good start from McGorgy there, from third place on the grid. Fletcher tries to come over to cover him off, but McGorgy goes to second. Jan Grankvist leads just out of the first corner, and now we're into turn 3. Oh, I think there was a spin. I think I saw someone spin across the back, and look at that. The field's been spread out quite a bit, actually. So I think some of the drivers further back had to take avoiding action as someone went perpendicular to the track, and that's Alex Lahoe. Alex Lahoe has spun, and that was a big spin as well. He definitely made contact with someone or something, and he will be dropping right to the back as well, so hopefully everyone avoids him. Goodness me, I hope we've got replays working today, because we'll have a lot to unpack after this first lap. So where's the likes of Tom Stevens on this first lap? He is up to 8th place, so that's a decent start from Tom, especially from 15th on the grid. He's got through all of the chaos, and that's what we wanted to see. Sergio Fletcher is running 3rd position. He had an amazing qualifying performance. Looks like all 27 cars are still in the race. That's good to see. And it wasn't Alex Lahoe who spun. My apologies. It was another yellow car. It must have been Sixter. Fabio Sixter spun. And I'm afraid to say I've once again got the Holland Racing Team car confused with another car. But yes, it looks as if it was Fabio Sixter who dropped to the rear of the field. My apologies to Alex Lahoe and fans of him. And Tom Stevens goes to 7th. What a great opening lap this has been from Tom Stevens, making up 8 positions before the first lap is even done. Ryan, this is exactly what he needed to do.
You'll see, I had not even noticed. He has absolutely torn that mid-pack apart. And now he's got his teammate right up ahead of him as well, which be interesting to see if they work together or if Adam just lets him go on this occasion. But yeah, it was Lahoe did lose a couple of places in the middle of that, but it was Sixter that we saw going backwards. I think the YouTube chat kind of pounced at the fact they thought it might have also been Lahoe. But on this occasion, he's still there in P11 and still got ample opportunity to go forward.
Indeed, yeah, it was the Epic Racing Team car. There are 3 orange-yellowy cars on the grid. You've got Holland Racing Team, Adonis, and Epic. Admittedly, Epic is a bit of a standout because it's slightly brighter, slightly more yellow. So I'm a bit embarrassed that I got that wrong, and the YouTube chat has immediately jumped on me, and they've all started to correct me on. Yeah, so they all began to correct me before I corrected myself. Thank you guys, but yeah, sorry about that. It was Fabio Sixter who dropped to the back of the field. Other than that, I'm sure I saw someone else spinning midway through turn 2, and we'll have to unpack exactly how that happened and who it was, and who has been badly affected in these early stages. But back up the front of the field, Jan Grankvist has extended his lead to 2 seconds now over Owen McGorgy, and then it's Fletcher, Schluter, Tyen, Maguire, Stevens, Pansar, Wok, and Fournier at the end of the second lap of the race. And from this lap onwards, Ryan, DRS will be available, but not for Owen McGorgy. Yeah,
McGorgy's dropped right off the back of Grankvist very early on, which is not how I think they ought. Well, the rest of the following pack, not just McGorgy, wanted this to go. DRS, almost seems now impossible. 2.5 seconds and growing is the gap. Is Jan pushing a little bit too hard in the start, maybe? Who knows? We'll find out in a few more laps time if we see his tyres drop right off. But it looks like we're going to get a replay here of what happened to...
Yeah,
I think it was Shimon and Fabio that must have come together.
No, so Shimon's incident was much earlier. There it is. So Shimon gets caught out in the pack, and that's one of the... I think it's one of the Holland Racing Team cars. I'm going to be slightly more cautious there before... I think that actually was Alex Lahoe that time. So Alex Lahoe gets into the side of Shimon Frelick and spins him around. And he... Well, there was a little bit of bumping and banging all the way through that corner, so it's hard to say whether or not he had any part to play in it. And there, Lahoe gets a little tap in the side and gets spun around. I know it says Matthias Moos on the front of his car, but that is Alex Lahoe subbing in for Matthias Moos today. And here is Fabio Sixter, the driver who is very much not Alex Lahoe. And he nearly came together, or did come together with, well, it's not Stevens, that'll be Adam Maguire, because Stevens hadn't come through yet by that point. So Sixter goes bouncing off the side of Adam Maguire's car and spins across the road, but I don't think that's any fault of Maguire's, because you can see he's right up against the barrier. I think that's just the kind of racing incident that happens on the first lap. Goodness me, I'm glad everyone avoided him there. And those two drivers, Sixter and Frelick, were the two worst affected drivers on the first lap of the race. So back to real time, Ryan, what do you make of all of that?
Yeah, it looked like Frelick actually just lost it on the curb originally. And I think that's why he ended up getting collected, was because he'd already gone for a little bit of a, not quite a half spin, but he was going, I think. But yeah, weird one, and then Fabio's just so unlucky there. He just got a little bit of, not even a little, it was a tiny snap that just sent him into the side of Maguire. Maguire obviously had absolutely nowhere he could go, completely innocent party, and thankfully didn't come off bad from that. But thankfully both incidents there kind of had small implications on the race, and didn't collect several cars, so still plenty of people in the running, which is exactly what we like to see.
Fletcher was side by side with McGorgy there, taking a look. This is extended Grankvist lead to nearly 4 seconds, look. So through the final corner of this particular lap we go. DRS will be open on the back of Sergio Fletcher's car. You see the rear wing flap. That's one of 3, I think, DRS zones on this circuit. And a little bit wide in the background was Mark Schluter. He's attacking and pressing hard. Remember, he needs to win today if anything happens to Jan Grankvist to make sure that he keeps the championship alive. To be honest, I'm not really sure that's going to be his main priority today. He just wants to take another race win and then see what happens after that. So here we go, McGorgy followed by Fletcher and Schluter. Fletcher definitely had a chance at the end of that last lap, but it is so difficult to overtake at a circuit like this. The straights may look long, but that's only because they're separated by such short, such tight little twisty sections and such hard corners. And all in all, the actually following another car through these turns is a task in and of itself. Over the Anderson Bridge they go into a left-hand corner. And there is, it looks as if Schluter's closer to Fletcher now than Fletcher is to McGorgy. So maybe it's his time to shine on the exit of this corner, Ryan.
Yeah, I almost feel like something's going to happen, but the gap now is kind of settling around about this 3 to 3.5 second mark. It's obviously fluctuating corner by corner, but it hasn't gone up as aggressively in this last lap, so maybe Grankvist, now that he's got the gaps, just going to put cruise control on and properly settle into this race now.
Yeah, there's actually 4 DRS zones, so yes, Matthias, I was wrong again. Everyone boo. Very good, thank you. Of course, the reason I thought there was 3 DRS zones is because there used to be, but the new long straight, as it's been dubbed by Vincent Gutt, who's messaged me about it, the new long straight, which is where the grandstand corner used to be, that is now also a DRS zone. So 4 DRS zones is a little bit excessive for a track like this, but I guess you need it because it is so tight. There are so few opportunities where you can actually make that overtake, and they really want the cars to keep as close to each other as they possibly can throughout the course of the race, because if you start to spread out, then obviously there's not much opportunity after that. Here's Alexander Ragosa in the only Pescara ADG car in the race, on the back of Dylan Fisher, who failed to set a qualifying time. And Mark Schluter also still all over the tail of Sergio Fletcher through the 3rd of 4 DRS zones on the circuit, Ryan.
Yeah, do we think Schluter's gonna do something? Feels like it's brewing, but he has to, really, if he wants any chance of doing anything for the title. But it almost feels, even just 6 laps into this race, that might be a very distant memory now, that potential championship for Schluter. He's been quite unlucky, hasn't he, to not be as close. He was not a name that I was expecting to be kind of fighting for the championship the way he has this season, but he's been mega impressive so far, and he can definitely come back next year, I'm sure, for a proper charge. But let's also look at the gap. I'm starting to see, you know, Tyan and Maguire and Steven just appearing, just getting ever slightly closer and closer. They'll see these three cars in a partnered team, so they'll be willing to work together, probably on some form of comms together as well. So they're not going to be silly. They're not going to make any silly, half-hearted overtakes or anything on one another. They're going to let Jarl do his best to catch up and burn his tyres out. I'm sure the THR guys would love that.
Stein Handgraf here, Green Stripes Racing, one of the rookies of the season. He's had a bit of an up and down season, has Stein Handgraf, but then again, Green Stripes have not been the most competitive of cars, so he has done the best that he can. His best result was a 10th place finish at the German Grand Prix. That was actually a very impressive drive, I remember it well. And the best result that Green Stripes had was when Jack Mayer took a 6th place for them in his one and only start for the team this year. But Stein Handgraf pushing on. Dennis Urban, the other Green Stripes car, just a few places ahead of him in 21st position. And Jan Granqvist has now extended his lead to 4 seconds. This is very, very impressive stuff indeed. I asked him after the last race, because he had been struggling for a little while, what the situation was with his wheel and pedal setup. Of course, when he had an issue a couple of rounds ago, he said it was because his sim cube, which he'd been racing with, had died, and he'd been forced to race with an inferior bit of hardware. And he said that it was causing him some input lag and causing him a hazard which he had to drive around. And I asked him about that after the last race, and he said it's completely fixed now. SimCube sent me a fixed, or SimCube fixed it for me, despite it being outside of its warranty. So that's very nice of them indeed, and it's given Jan Granqvist the opportunity to get himself back in the race and get himself back up to the front where he rightfully should be based on his performances of the season so far. But what we've seen from him so far today has been really quite special, with his incredible qualifying pace, putting him 2/10 of a second ahead of anyone else in one of the tightest fields that you'll find in sim racing. And he's been absolutely out of sight ever since the first couple of laps here, just because he's been able to get away from Owen McGorky, who's rather holding up Sergio Fletcher and Mark Schluter here, but fairly so. And Fletcher and Schluter now have the imperative to get themselves past in as clean and fast a way as they possibly can, Ryan.
Yeah, that gap is getting smaller and smaller, looking backwards as well. And what do you think is going to happen here? Schluter pulls out to what is going to be the inside, which turns then to the outside. Can he get it on the brakes? No, he can't. Fletcher holds the position for now.
Fletcher was very lucky to maintain that position there, braking later into the left-hander, but he made a mistake. That was why Schluter was able to get alongside him in the first place. He went a little wide through that right-hander at turn 4, and very nearly allowed Schluter to get through him even before the DRS zone. And I think he'll be pretty glad he had DRS there from McGorky in front of him, because otherwise there would be no way to hold off Mark Schluter, who was clearly having the better of exits out of the corner. And now look how close they are to the pack behind them. Tyan's gained on them, Maguire's gained on them. It's almost like the second lap of the race all over again. You've got Maguire, Stevens, Pansar, Woch, and Jeffrey Fournier running in P10. Fournier, another driver who got a time penalty after the last race, but it didn't cost him as much as it cost Jarl Tyan. And a brief yellow flag out there somewhere. That's a little bit of a staple of the Singapore circuit. Oh, Dylan Fisher's out of the race. Okay, so we've had our first retirement, I'm afraid to say. Dylan Fisher, presumably the cause of that yellow flag. He'd been having a tough day anyway. He'd been dropping down the order, and of course failed to set a qualifying lap, so was at the back of the order anyway. And now we know why he dropped down the order, because he was in the act of retiring from the race. And Simon Frelick's in the pits as well. We saw him having a spin earlier on. And look at Sergio Fletcher now. Fletcher took a little look up the inside of Owen McGorky for that second position. and you can tell he's getting frustrated. We got a real train forming here. McGorgy all the way back through the field, and exciting stuff for this second position in the race in the early stages, Ryan.
Amazing how it can go from, you know, Fletcher looked like the one who's going to be attacked, and then goes on to attack McGorgy.
And it was contact.
He gets a big slide on, doesn't he?
He's side by side with one of the Vortex cars, and he and he flips it over. So Dylan Fisher was side by side with a Vortex, and unfortunately, with a Zortex, sorry. I don't know where I got the V from, and unfortunately has had a massive accident just going over the Anderson Bridge, and he's nearly ended up in the river, hasn't he? In the docks, rather. And the roll hoop doing its job, the halo doing its job, the car coming to a rest, but there's absolutely no way you can continue on in the race after something like that. And as Ed Hunter says, that's gutting for Dylan, especially after Baku. And indeed, it was Remco de Joux that he was side by side with in the Zortax car. But no fault of de Joux's, that was just Fisher getting it wrong and ending up on his lid.
Yeah, it was a nasty one, that, wasn't it?
Aviation in the chat says, do a flip. Indeed. Ed Hunter says, too ambitious by Dylan, no space for him to get through there. You can overtake on the Anderson Bridge sometimes. I remember this famous video of Felipe Massa passing Bruno Senna there, having a massive twitch and somehow not careering into the side of him, even though it looked as if he definitely would. But really, you shouldn't be making a move there, especially since the next straight is a DRS straight anyway, and if you hold on, then you can make the move on the exit. Here's Mark Schluter, still in 4th place, still sandwiched between, right in the middle of that chain of cars. There's the bridge where Dylan Fisher had his accident. The advantage of this being a simulator, of course, is that not only is Dylan Fisher completely okay after that accident, but also we don't have to pause the race for a safety car intervention or a red flag or anything like that. And they continue on their way. This battle is uninterrupted. And Jan Grankvist's lead is not completely wiped out as it may have been if there was an interruption.
You know, I do sometimes wish that we had safety cars. I'm not sure if that's a controversial opinion or not, but I think it would be cool.
Dylan Fisher coming into the YouTube chat saying, well, he blames Philip Pushgate, so we thought it was Remco de Joux, but apparently it was Philip Pushgate that he was alongside with. I have to admit, I'm not entirely familiar with the helmet designs of the Zortax drivers, but yes, he blames Philip Pushgate for that accident. And I have to say, Dylan, from our point of view, I'm not quite sure why you believe that, but you know, heat of the moment. And look at that, Sergio Fletcher up the inside of Owen McGorgy. Oh, and they touch! McGorgy's off the road. Schluter's going to get both of them. Schluter on the outside now. Fletcher drives him out towards the wall. They get away with it. He'll have the inside line. Fletcher maintains 2nd position. McGorgy's all the way down to the 6th, and he's sliding. He's got damage. McGorgy is heavily damaged. Look at that. He's crabbing his way down the straight. The axles are clearly out of alignment. He will probably have to retire from this race. So McGorgy down to 9th place. He'll continue to drop down the pack. He'll lose control if he's not careful. Slow it down, Owen. You're going to crash into someone at this rate. Over the Anderson Bridge they go. He's out of the top 10. There was a collision between Fletcher and McGorgy, and it has ended in tears. Whoa, did you see what happened there, Ryan?
How on earth has he managed to hold on to that, by the way? The initial crash was weird. We just kind of panned to it and they were already off. Hopefully we can get a good replay of that, but that's really shaken up the order a little bit now. Sergio Fletcher jumps up into P2 at this point in time, but there's a massive train forming off the back of P2 now, in the length of the entire straight.
Well, I'd love to see a replay of what just happened between Fletcher and McGorgy, because we only caught the end of that as they were side by side into the left-hander at turn 5. I know it's not officially turn 5, but realistically it's the 5th actual corner of the circuit. There's a few little kinks that claim to be corners here. And look at Schluter now gaining on Fletcher, who goes slightly more defensive and holds him off into the corner where we saw that contact between himself and McGorgy. Does Fletcher have any damage, I wonder? We'll have to wait and see as the race goes on. And here's a replay of what just happened. This should hopefully shed some more light on how this was caused. Fletcher's going to go for a relatively late move, but I think he does have a claim to that corner. They touch, bang, into the wall goes McGorgy, and that's what's caused the axles to be shifted out of alignment. That looks like a racing incident to me, at least from that angle. I think we will have to see it again. We're on board with Sergio Fletcher, and I know the stewards will be having a look at this, so I'm not saying that this is a definitive judgment, but that does look like pure unlucky side-to-side contact there. Fletcher doing a great job to hold on to second position. I don't think there was anyone to blame for that, Ryan, do you?
Yeah, it wasn't very malicious, but if I was McGorgy, I'd be furious. If I'm Fletcher, I'd be saying there's nothing wrong.
Istvan Singel's dropping down the order. Looks like we've had another retirement, and that's both the Stacks cars out now, because Zolt Shukes is showing us having a DNF as well. And I think I just saw a change. And let's look at, and into the pits comes Tomasz Vok. So whether he was involved or whether this is a scheduled pit stop, he won't have been involved with Singel. Singel was lower down the order than that. I don't know why I even suggested that one.
Well, if you think about what Vok's doing, right, if he is going for a genuine pit stop, this could be a major undercut on a train of how many cars are there, like 8, 9, as we see a move up the inside for Tyen on Schluter, pushes him wide over the curb. He manages to get the position for now, but yeah, Vok could do a massive undercut here if people aren't careful.
Indeed. Yep. Just got a message from cameraman actually, Vincent Gutt, who says it was Philip that Dylan was side by side with. Okay, well, apologies to Remco Deju, although I do also have to blame Ed Hunter for that one. Hey Ed, you were teasing me for getting it wrong earlier on, giving you some extra work to do in the highlights. Oh dear. No, I'm teasing you, it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, back to the race. We've got Jarl Tyen there in third position now. He's up into... When did he get past Mark Schluter? I must have been looking down when that happened. So Jarl Tyen's up into third now.
Yeah, it happened last lap. It was a forceful move.
And into the pits comes Sergio Fletcher, and Grankvist is in. So we are expecting these early pit stops then. Okay, I wasn't sure if this was going to be the case. Maybe it's a higher tyre wear circuit than expected. I was looking, and he's onto the hard tyres, so he's going to be running longer. Jan Grankvist exiting the pits. You see, the trouble with this, yes, the undercut is powerful here, but he's going to come out in traffic. There are drivers who still haven't made their pit stops. And but loads of drivers who have, look. Alex Lahoe, Daniel Stepkowski, Chris Shepard, Dennis Urban, Stein Hangraf. Goodness me, that's a busy pit lane this early on in the race. And yeah, my apologies for not paying attention and missing the Jarl Tyen pass on Mark Schluter, because he now gets through into the lead of the race due to Grankvist's pit stop and Fletcher's pit stop. And we're going to see her. And Zolt Shukes is out of the race, and there's a tyre bouncing down the road. So I mentioned that both of the Stacks racing cars were out, and this is why, bang, into the wall goes Zolt Shukes. And that is why the wheel was seen flying down the road and overtaking the car eventually. And then this is what happened to Istvan Singel over the Anderson Bridge, and he touches the wall on the inside, on the right-hand side, and then has to pull up. So unfortunate stuff for the two Stacks racing cars. I often get a message from Christian Zerner whenever I've been complimenting one of their drivers, and then they make a mistake or retire from the race. And contact, and Philip Pushke goes around, and that was contact with one of your guys, wasn't it, Ryan?
It could have been, yeah, it could have been Stepkowski. I only caught the back of that one when I was looking on race view.
That's okay. Into the pits, Jarl Tyen, Mark Schluter, Adam Maguire, Robin Panto, Jakob Ekalalu. Again, we've got a busy pit lane. Tom Stevens will lead the race, at least temporarily. And that will give Grankvist a bit more clean air than he was otherwise used to. There's Daniel Stepkowski, who will gain a few places as a result of this. More drivers coming into the pits. Remco Deju, Hygo Poom. Wow, okay. So quite a narrow pit window then, and by that I mean everyone's pitting within 2 or 3 laps of each other. We don't have drivers extending much longer and going 20 laps into the race. We may get some of the drivers who started on different tyre compounds, but yeah, this is quite a hectic pit lane at this point in the race, and surely that means that Stevens, Fournier and Kropp well, Stevens and Fournier especially, being on those soft tyres, will pit soon. Tyan, look, has come out on a different tyre compound, and he's jumped Fletcher. So Tyan is on the medium tyres and has jumped Sergio Fletcher. Now, Mark Schluter's showing up as being on soft tyres. Is that a case of the tyres just not updating themselves, or has he gone for something wildly different? Because if so, that's a bit of a headache for us commentators, with drivers pitting for 3 different compounds of tyre in the early stages of this race. You very rarely see that, especially not from drivers who started on the same compound of tyre. And Mark Schluter clearly did not feel the need to run longer on a harder compound. So he continues on. Jarl Tyan now has to push and try to catch up to Jan Granqvist while he has a chance. Tom Stevens and Jeffrey Fournier are into the pits, so Moritz Kropp will presumably take the lead, at least until Jan Granqvist catches up to him on his fresher tyres. And it does seem as if Mark Schluter is genuinely on those soft tyres, which is a very unusual strategy. You pretty much never see drivers going soft at the start of a race, because the hard tyres are usually the best ones to be on, Ryan. Oh, contact! So
Yeah,
Tom Stevens came out side by side with Tomasz Vogt there, almost locked wheels with him through turn 3. He's still going to be side by side with him through turn 5, turn 4. They both open the DRS on the back of Adam Maguire, but yeah. Oh no, that's Maguire there. So there was a little bit of contact, but he got away with it. And look at that dive! What goes up the inside? Stevens reacts to it, runs over the curb on the outside. Goodness me, that was a bit dramatic there from Tomasz Vogt, dive bombing up the inside of Adam Maguire and nearly taking out Stevens in the process. Maguire gets back through on the outside, really tense stuff. Further back in the field, Stevens 6th, Maguire 7th, Wok 8th. They're all ahead of Jeffrey Fournier there as Moritz Kropp does lead the race. But yeah, what a strange pit window there, with Tyan jumping Fletcher, with Schluter going on to soft tyres, with drivers making contact on pit exit, both of the RSR cars in contact with other drivers on pit exit. And I just saw Schluter taking a little look at Fletcher there, as well as now Wok is under pressure from Fournier. Goodness me, Ryan, I can't let you get a word in edgeways. This is kicking off everywhere you look, and Fletcher does get past. So Schluter gets through into 4th position ahead of Sergio Fletcher on those softer tyres. He needed to do so, and he has. And now he sets off after Jarl Tyan. Whoa, Ryan, what do you make of all this?
Well, this is just what can happen. Like, one pit stop can absolutely shake the race up, like, in a way that you think it's going all nice and dandy, and then this happens. Tyan jumping the lot of them was a surprise for me. I thought he was going to get undercut personally, but he hasn't. There doesn't seem to be a big winner out of that, really. Apart from Tyan, you know, it's stayed fairly similar, but it's tightened everybody up, and people are being extra aggressive because if they don't make the move early while they've got fresh tyres, they're just going to have to go into conservation mode and have to sit behind until the next pit stop window opens.
I'm interested to see some comments about potential stream difficulties. It's all looking fine on my end, at least on the Discord stream that I'm watching. So maybe there's an issue between Discord and YouTube, but anyway, or between OBS and YouTube as it would be, but I don't need to bore you with that technical stuff now. Jan Granqvist is about to retake the lead of the race. He's caught up to Kropp on his softer tyres. He's having to go around the exit, around the outside on the exit of that chicane, and now Kropp pits, and Granqvist is thinking, goodness, why couldn't you have done that 1 lap sooner? But that is his prerogative. And out of the race goes Alex Lahoe. Oh no. And McGorky's out. Sorry, I must have missed that laps ago, because he actually seems to have retired even before Istvan Xingel. But of course, we did see that collision that McGorky was involved with. So I guess we should have expected that, but I didn't see that he had actually retired. And then, of course, Alex Lahoe retired just on this last lap. So suddenly dropping like flies. We've got 22 cars remaining in this race. And I'm sure we'll see soon exactly what happened with Alex Lahoe, as there is a move, and that is Tom Stevens on Sergio Fletcher. So that is for position there. Stevens getting past Fletcher, and Maguire taking a look as well. Okay. I want to see what tyre Stevens on, actually. I'm not sure I paid much attention to that. So if we could see that quickly, Vince. He's on the mediums. Okay, so Of course, the general rule of thumb is that the softer the tyre is, the quicker it is early in the stint. And of course, medium being softer than hards. Tom Stevens should be faster than Sergio Fletcher at this point in time, as should Adam Maguire, so that does make some semblance of sense. Jeffrey Fournier, of course, on the soft tyres, catching all of those drivers. Mark Schluter's now showing up as being on mediums, so he's not on the soft tyres that we saw him on. And that means that it was just a case of the sim not updating. So not only were we confused about the whole pit strategy thing, but the broadcast machine was confused as well. Our apologies about that one. And a big dive up the inside, and that was Jeffrey Fournier. Also pulling a move on Fletcher. Does Fletcher have damage or something here? He's dropping back. Dropping like a stone, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's happening there, to be honest, but you know, all it takes is a bit of pushing too hard on these tyres, or you know, one mistake, as we see what can happen if you make a mistake around here by Alex Lahoo. Yeah, to either scrape a wall, get a tiny bit of damage, or push your tyres just a bit too much, overheat them, and you know, things become tricky for you. He is obviously on the hard tyre as well, so he's not going to have it as easy as the mediums around him.
Yeah, indeed. Ed Hunter says hard tyres are not working for him, and that could be worrying for Jan Grankvist, of course, our race leader, who is also on hard tyres. But the gap has not come down as much as you would expect if he was really struggling. It's 3.5 seconds at this point in time, so that seems reasonable. But yes, unfortunate for Alex Lahoo there, a bit of a street circuit master, but unfortunately today, the Anderson Bridge catching him out, as it has for a few drivers. That's where Dylan Fisher retired, that's where Istvan Xingel retired earlier on, so bit of an accident black spot. Jeffrey Fournier, soft tyres, running P6. I think Fournier started outside the top 15, so he's probably gone from medium tyres onto softs, unless I'm very much mistaken. And through that difficult final corner he goes. You can see how shaken up this grid is after the first pit window. Tom Stevens up 11 places. Now that is all actually for position. That is all genuine. He's made pretty much all of those overtakes on the track, and that's just how well Tom Stevens has been doing in the race. Ed Hunter made a comment earlier that this has become a bit of a theme for Tom Stevens recently, qualifying poorly and then making up positions. He's now leading his teammate Adam Maguire around the circuit, with Jeffrey Fournier hot on their heels. And as we are now a third of the way into the race, you can see how it's shaking up, with Grankvist still leading, followed by Tyne, then Schluter, Stevens, Maguire, Fournier, Fletcher, Wok, Panzer, and Stepkovsky, the top 10. Points go down to 15th, so also we should mention Shepard, Lalu, Krop, Frelick, and Pollentz. Good recovery drive from Frelick, but he pitted quite early, didn't he, to get off those tyres that he'd spun on, so potentially slightly out of position there is Shimon Frelick.
I tell you what, just a moment of appreciation. I absolutely love watching Jeff Fournier race. Not only does he always go for overtakes, it doesn't matter where he qualifies, he always seems to just be like, his name's mentioned all the time, just in the mix in the race. He's always just there or thereabouts.
Sorry, I've just noticed Alex Lahoo's dropped into the YouTube chat. He says, "At least I get to sleep early." Yes, indeed. The lights at Singapore here, not just keeping the track illuminated, it can be a little bit draining mentally. And well, Singapore Grand Prix held at about 9 or 10 p.m. local time. I think it's past your bedtime, Alex. But anyway, Thomas Vuk, DRS open down the straight. He's approaching Sergio Fletcher, darts to the outside and gets through, actually. It's a difficult place to pull a move, because if you're... Oh, and a big twitch! And goodness me, Fletcher's really struggling, isn't he? He's gathered it up. Carries on, but I think he's all out of sorts here. And I really do wonder why that is. It may be that he picked up some damage in the contact with Magorki earlier on. And on these fresh tyres, he's just struggling to get some grip into them, to get some semblance of control in the car. And this is really hampering him at a circuit as difficult as Singapore. Onto the bridge we go. DRS opening. and towards the right-hander. Into the third sector of the circuit we go. Fletcher just ahead of his teammate Robin Panzer, who is yet to win a race this year but has got close. And then Daniel Stepkowski following them across in 10th position. 40 laps remaining, as you can see on the screen. It is a long race, both in terms of distance and time. And trust me, it will feel draining for these drivers. It's one of the most physically challenging on the calendar, both in the real world of racing and the world of sim racing. And of course, one of the most mentally challenging in sim racing as well. Ryan, I've noticed that the gap for the lead is coming down. We would probably expect that with Tyan being on softer tyres than Grankvist, but I mentioned a couple of laps ago he was 3.5 seconds behind. He's now 2.5 seconds behind, so it is potentially on here, at least in this pit window, and we'll have to wait and see how they react when the second pit window is upon us.
Really tricky around here though. It's like Grankvist can afford to let him catch for now. Getting past is, you know, another task in itself. Like Grankvist can kind of circulate it, you know, 7/10 for now, and Tyan would probably still struggle to get past. So it's a good sign for us as commentators on this race that we might have a battle for the lead on our hands. But you know, obviously we have got the tyre differential, so maybe by the time that Tyan actually catches up, the opposite strategy might end up benefiting Jan, and he might start to pull away with a bit more life left in his tyres. We did go yellow in sector 2, looks like...
Is it Pushka? Yep, Philip Pushka is out of the race, and we're about to see a replay of what's happened to our former Super League champion. Ooh, comes into contact with the Sol Pescara ADG car of... Oh, round he goes, and does well not to go straight back onto the racing line. Contacts there with the Pescara ADG car of... I've already forgotten who is driving that car, I'm so sorry. But around he goes and retires from the race. It really has been a race of attrition so far, hasn't it? Is it George Zalagianis in that car? No, he was the driver who wasn't going to be racing today. It's Alexander Ragosa, my apologies. I really do apologise about this. You would expect, I mean, I've been commentating the season for the whole year. You'd expect that I'd know the grid by now, but Alexander Ragosa in the pits after that incident. And yes, Ed Hunter correcting me in the YouTube chat. Thanks, Ed, and apologies for forgetting. Wasn't it a year ago here where I reacted to something... No, it was back in Jeddah, wasn't it? I reacted to someone spinning on the first lap, and I blurted out a name of someone who wasn't even in the race. And then Ed had to correct it in post when it came to the highlights reel, and then he had a go at me for it. Very good. Sorry about that, Ed. But anyway, the race continues. Grankvist leads 2.6 seconds ahead of Jarl Tyan. And there are the two THR cars. They are on course to score 24 points today, according to Ed Hunter. And Super Venturi would score 29, slightly extending their championship lead. Still a very close fight in the Constructors' Championship. I was saying at the last round, Ryan, it reminds me a lot of the real world of Formula One, where of course you got Red Bull, the dominant car in the early stage of the season, being reeled in by McLaren. In this case, it's quite a similar story, where you've got the similar colours too, dark blue Red Bull, dark blue Super Venturi, being chased down by the orangey blue, or orange and blue, THRs of Adam Maguire and Tom Stevens, and at this rate they could well snatch the championship away from them at the last minute, but this has been a relatively good drive from the Super Venturi pair so far. And I've seen a little bit of moving about further down in the order, so hopefully everything's okay there. No more retirements to update you on just yet. But
funny enough, going back to your
yeah,
point about the Red Bull, is that in the Drivers' Championship as well, Grankvist built up that early lead in the championship, and not being able to be caught, even when on occasions he hasn't been, you know, he hasn't won every race. There's been other winners. but obviously he just got them early points in.
Well, you heard it here first. If Jan Grangfist makes this comeback and wins today, then expect Max Verstappen to win the next Grand Prix. Right, we're on board, or we were watching Adam Maguire. I thought he was slightly wide on the exit of the corner, but I think he should be okay. Remco de Jeux now, lining up Dennis Urban in the green stripes car, heading towards the final turn of this particular lap. It's a double apex left-hander, and it is a difficult one. There's a reason we saw Tom Stevens crashing there in qualifying when you're really pushing. And Moritz Kropp is out of the race. And we just saw he'd only just overtaken Jukka-Pekka Lalu. That's when I said I saw a change in the order. It was Kropp passing Lalu. But unfortunately, he's immediately retired from the race. So yet another driver dropping out. And this is another demonstration of my old philosophy that it's always worth finishing a race if you can. Because look, Remco de Jeux has just overtaken Dennis Urban, and he would have expected to get up into 16th place, but he's up into 15th now, so that would be a point if he was to finish where he is now. So very unfortunate stuff for Moritz Kropp. We'll have to take a look and see exactly what happened to him. And right on cue, here is our replay from Vince Gutt. Thank you, Vince, for showing us this. It's through turn 3, is it? And it's a disconnection, so no fault of Moritz Kropp's. You saw Jukka-Pekka Lalu going through, the driver who had just overtaken, but nobody at fault for that one except potentially his internet service provider.
Don't even get me started on internet providers.
Yeah, not exactly something a driver wants to hear about during this race. They don't exactly want to be reminded of their computer's own mortality, but as the race continues, 19 drivers still running, all of them within a chance of scoring points. Of course, Fabio Sixter is the driver who most commonly falls foul of his internet service provider, but he's still in the race in 19th position, having spun and hit the wall on the first lap of the race. If just 4 more drivers dropped out, then he would be in the points, and we're not even halfway through the race yet, so that is entirely plausible. And once again, if you can finish the race, you absolutely should. There have been races this season where only just over 15 drivers have finished. There have been races in GPVWC in the past where fewer than 15 drivers have finished. And, you know, it's going to happen again someday. At least probability dictates that it might. Sergio Fletcher on the back of Tomasz Vlok. Tomasz, who's gained a few places since this race has started. Some of that through attrition, some of that through strategy, and some of that through Sergio Fletcher having a bit of a nightmare at the start of the stint, and he's going to run wide. Fletcher will have to give that place up. I saw... Oh, and he's hit him. So Tomasz Vlok has been... Oh, that's very close there with the Edge Esports car coming through. Chris Shepherd only just takes avoiding action. And I think Tomasz Vlok will be out of the race, and he is. Goodness me. And I have to say, I always like to leave these things up to the stewards, but that was a little bit egregious there from Sergio Fletcher, because not only did he overshoot the corner, and I saw that he was going to from quite an early point in that move, but as he rejoined, he got it all crossed up and slammed into the side of Tomasz Vlok. Well, very unfortunate for Tomasz Vlok, but again, it adds to my point that attrition is the word of the day. And here's a replay. Fletcher gets the move all wrong, brakes way too late with a struggling car, misses the corner. Now at this point, he needs to give the move back, and he lights up the rear tyres, slams into the side of Tomasz Vlok, takes him out, nearly rejoins into the path of Chris Shepherd, who does a good job to avoid it. You heard me make a rather strange noise as Chris came through. I thought there was going to be further contact there. And that reminds me a lot of the Denahan-Stevens crash from a year ago, and I'm afraid only 18 cars remain in this race now, Ryan.
So I hate being a team manager commentator.
And I don't think Ryan wants to talk after that one. Fair enough. So here we're watching Mark Prix.
It's tricky.
Also running slightly wide into the corner. There's a wheel off by the side of the road. That'll be from Tomasz Vlok's car. Hopefully no one hits that before it can be cleaned up by the simulator. And luckily it's well off the racing line, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. Just a little update on the race for the lead. I mentioned before that the gap had come down to 2.5 seconds. It's now back out again to 4 seconds. I've just realised something. I think I just interrupted you, Ryan, did I?
Oh, I don't know, did you? I might be having problems with my internet provider. I was just
No.
saying that I really dislike being a team manager and having to commentate on this sometimes.
Well, I really do apologise for interrupting you, because I absolutely did. And the reason for that is because I've just looked down and seen that I've pulled my microphone. Sorry, I've pulled my headset out. So you'd have still been able to hear me, but I couldn't hear you for that last couple of minutes there. And I really do apologise for talking over you, Ryan. Anyway, 18 cars remain in this race. And we're watching Mark Schluter on the back of Sarah, I've just seen a I know why you've sent me that screenshot, Vince. Okay, so Vincent Gutt has just sent me a screenshot of the results of the 2022 Super League Grand Prix here, and only 12 cars finished, and I've just noticed who was in 12th position in that race 2 laps back. It was a certain driver by the name of Vincent Gutt, starting 22nd on the grid, snagging a couple of points, snagging 4 points in that one as a result of continuing on despite all of the attrition. So yeah, that very much backs up my point there, Vince. Thanks for sending me that screenshot. And there's a genuine chance that something like that could happen again today. And Lale's just passed Fletcher, just noticed that on the... And Fletcher's dropping back further. Fletcher's in further issues here. You can see the time, and has he lost it? There's a wheel off. Yep. Oh goodness, and another driver hit that wheel. Well, here's a replay. We're about to see another crash, and this is exactly the point on the track where he came into contact with Tomasz Wok a lap ago. He's going to lose it on the exit. Another big twitch, bang into the barriers, loops the car around into the wall on the inside. Lalu avoids the wheel. Who hits it? I have a feeling it's the other Adonis car. It can't have been, because Panter was ahead of him on the road. I think it was Pascal Pollens, actually. So Pollens hit the wheel. Hopefully no damage to him. Goodness me, Ryan, 17 cars remaining in this race.
All you gotta do, keep your nose clean. Or if you're Fabio Sixta right now, you don't even know if that to have kept your nose clean. You can have a spin and you're already almost back to points.
Yeah, indeed. I'm going to try to update myself on the YouTube chat, because a lot's happened. Headhunter said, got to feel for Wok there. Yeah, I'm sure Ryan Elliott will echo your thoughts on that one. Chaotic race, chaotic commentary, yes, oh dear. Lucas Stylen says, what did I miss? The answer to that is everything, or as Ruben Machete said, death, DNF, crash. Yep, there we go. Aviation says Schluter needs to win, right? Yes, if we're talking about the World Championship, Mark Schluter would need to win to keep his own hopes alive. Tom Stevens would need to finish in the top 2, and both of them would need Jan Grankvist to be hit by a meteorite or something, because he is currently in the lead of the race, and if he finishes in the top 9 positions, then he wins the championship today. And it's looking very good for him indeed. To be honest, there's probably a universe out there where Jan Grankvist is not even going to see the checkered flag today and will still win the championship. Aviation says Remco P12. Yep, Remco de Joux into the pits now, but he was on quite a roll there, up into 12th position in this race. Dennis Urban in the pits as we speak as well. WA says, goodness, how many people have crashed? At this point, you just need to survive. Yes, indeed. Because if only 2 more people retired from this race, and remember, we've got over half the race, well, we've got exactly half the race still to run. If only 2 more people retired from this race, every single driver in contention will score points. So you really do just need to survive here. David Feidock, former world champion, says, so much action only halfway through. Oh, don't remind these drivers. They'll see their pit board saying 31 laps to go and they'll think, can I have an accident? I am rather exaggerating there, but it's certainly plenty more work to go for these drivers. So you see Schluter, almost looks as if he's lining up Jarltijn here. I think he is the faster driver at this point in time, and Tyre makes a mistake. Tyre runs wide on the exit of turn 3. Schluter gets an overlap with him. He's going for the outside for turn 4. Backs out of it there. He'll get DRS on the exit of the corner as well. Another big twitch for Tyne, who goes defensive. Look at this. It's Tyne second, Schluter third, then Stevens and Maguire fighting with him. And up the inside goes Schluter. They rob wheels. There's a tiny little bit of contact. They're still hooked together on the exit. Over the curbs goes Jarltijn. Stevens goes through on the outside. Stevens up to third. He'll have the inside for the next corner. So Schluter second, Stevens third. The top three in the championship are the top three in the race, albeit not quite in the right order. Yaltayan drops back into fourth position. Maguire not quite able to take advantage of all of that. But yeah, good move from Mark Schluter, and that was all triggered by a slight mistake from Yaltayan having a bit of a twitch through that chicane at the start of the lap and losing positions, Ryan.
Yeah, no love lost between Schluter and Tyen either. Obviously, after what happened at the last race, and with the overtake, the quite firm overtake earlier on in the race from Tyen. So Schluter's probably happy to have got one over on him. But while all this is happening, Granquist has been rubbing his hands together, and that gap's now gone out to 5.5 seconds as Tyen and Fournier head for the pits on this time round.
Yep, so Tyen, who was struggling, has decided it's time to bail out of that. This could be a 3-stop strategy for these drivers. If we see them on the hard tyres, then they can potentially run to the end. Mediums for Fournier, so this will be a 3-stop for him, I believe. And Tyen, is that really a soft tyre set? Okay, so 3 stops for both of them then, unless the simulator still needs to update for us, as it did with Mark Schluter earlier on. I was expecting 2 stops to be the order of the day, but I guess this is a long race, and clearly one where you need all the grip that you can get. Here's Tom Stevens on the back of Mark Schluter. We haven't even spoken about fastest lap yet today, because of course you do get a point for that, providing you finish in the top 15. Chris Shepherd snagged the fastest lap after his pit stop a couple of laps ago. And I see Moritz Kropp is in the YouTube chat now, saying, I'm so fed up. Doing some laps before the race would help, to be honest. Yes, that probably would, especially at a circuit as difficult as Singapore. Stein Handgraf makes a stop, so that puts his teammate Urban back up into the points-paying positions. Good name to have on a street circuit, actually. Mr. Urban. And I'm sure that'll stick as a nickname if he is to score points today. Tom Stevens making a move now. He's sizing up Mark Schluter. They rub wheels again. These two battling for second in the championship. Schluter misses the corner. Stevens says, I'm entitled to that move. And into the pits now comes Schluter. So Stevens does go through into second place. Maguire goes through to third. But that's because of Mark Schluter making this pit stop, potentially in reaction to some people pitting from behind him. But this was probably already his plan anyway. And he was the driver who made the mistake through the corner. Stops in his box. Soft tyres. 3-stop strategy for him as well, surely. This is really interesting stuff here. Normally on tracks where it's so difficult to overtake, you expect to see the drivers trying to spend as little time as they possibly can in the pits. And he's going to come up very close there. Ooh, touching wheels with Daniel Stepkowski.
No,
comes out in 7th place. Yaltayan, my apologies. Yeah, sorry, I thought it was a RSR car, but again, chaotic commentary, as Ed Hunter says. And Tyen's going for a move now on Jukka-Pekka Laulu, who's yet to stop. And they're both going through on Laulu, who's yet to stop, up the inside. And Schluter nearly shoving Yaltayan through the corner. And look at Fournier. Fournier dives and does get through on Jukka-Pekka Laulu as well. Knew that he'd be losing time if he sat back there. And we got drivers on all tyre compounds out there except for the wet tyre compounds, but who knows, we may even see that being used here today at Singapore. Tom Stevens runs in 2nd place, just ahead of Adam Maguire. Both of them on medium tyres, surrounded by cars on hards. Tyen and Schluter, who made those moves, are both on soft tyres, as are Handgraf and Sixter. And into the pits now comes Adam Maguire from 3rd position. And at this rate, he might as well just bolt on the intermediate tyres or something and see what happens. I am joking, of course. He will probably go for softs or mediums, judging by how it's lined up. And Schluter nearly lines up to go into the back of Yaltayan there, as they'll both gain a place from Adam Maguire across the start-finish line. I think part of the reason, as they do get past Maguire... Oh, and wide goes Schluter over the curbs. Gathers it back up again. I think part of the reason that they're not averse to making so many pit stops is because the pit entry and the pit exit both cut out a bit of their respective corners, the final corner and the first corner. But even so, you do lose time by being in the pits, and you do force yourself into a situation where you've got to make overtakes. So here are Tyen, Schluter and Fournier. Talking of overtakes, I'm sure we're going to see something kick off again any second now. As meanwhile, Granqvist continues to lead this race by 6 seconds over Stevens as we await their respective pit stops. But yes, another pit window well and truly in motion here, Ryan. And I have to say, 3-stop strategies are really spicing this race up.
Yeah, well, I wasn't expecting a 3-stop to be the norm from everybody. I was expecting more 2s, but it seems like the go-to strategy for most people in this race so far.
And I think that Stepkovsky just overtook Lalu, I think. So Lalu still struggling on those tyres, which he's running longer than the others. Maybe still aiming for that 2-stop.
Stepkovsky is on fresher, who I think was the first person to stop for this second race.
And another DNF.
And
Heiko Poom. Heiko Poom is out. Tom Stevens is in the pits. So Stevens now comes out. Where will he be in relation to Maguire? Maguire goes through. So that shows you how powerful the undercut is, because Maguire has jumped him. Fournier is ahead of both of them now. Remember, Fournier was behind both of them before this pit window. So that's a change for position. And Fournier 5th, Maguire 6th, Stevens is 7th. But yeah, Heiko Poom's out of this race. 16 cars to go in a race where 15 cars can score points, and Maguire gets back through on Fournier on the exit. And look at that, he misses the corner, and I think Fournier will argue that he gained advantage by running over the curbs on the outside there, running off the track, but that's an argument for later on. Maguire up into 5th position now, having been narrowly beaten by Fournier in that pit window. And it continues to kick off. I tell you what, I love 3-stop strategies, because when it comes to races like this, it's a lot like a collection, maybe 4 20-minute sprint races, 25-minute sprint races, back to back to back. And there's really no tyre preservation or anything like that. You just got to go for it. You got to make the moves when they come. And I think it makes races like this very exciting indeed.
Certainly does. We see fastest lap going in there as well by Fabio 60. So he's not too far away now from scoring points. Just 1 DNF away.
Ed Hunter says, to be fair, I think Maguire still had 2 wheels on the track there. I think we'd have to see a replay to determine that, but he might well have done. And yeah, he also says, horrible race for AKA Hero. That is true. We've now lost both of the AKA Hero cars from this race. And of course, they're not the only team with both of their drivers out. Stax Racing retired earlier on. And there are plenty more teams who are very much on the back foot here. Of course, the advantage of having so many teams in the race, with 27 cars in total, is that we still have a rather full track of 16 cars despite all of these DNFs. It is a race of attrition, but I think that's rather exaggerated by how many cars started this race in the first place. And here's a replay of Adam Maguire getting past Jeffrey Fournier, and we'll have to take a look and see if he did keep 2 wheels within the white lines on the exit of the corner, because if he did not, and I think he did, you know, he definitely still had his front left within the lines. So I think that's fair there from Adam Maguire, and I do apologise if I alluded to it maybe not being fair. And there is your time.
I don't think Jeff would be too annoyed about that one.
Okay, Granqvist and Panzer are in the pits now. Meanwhile, Tyen will take the lead. He's fighting with Mark Schluter and is ahead for the time being, but yes. And Granqvist exits the pits, and he has maintained the lead, just about. So Granqvist maintains the lead from Jarl Tyen. But remember, this is for position. The reason that they're this close is because Tyen and the others pitted before Jan Granqvist, and they've used this undercut to their advantage. Now what? And look at this, they're going for a move. They're taking advantage while they can. This is the first time we've seen Granqvist under pressure in this race, and Jarl Tyen takes the lead. Jarl Tyen goes through, heading down into turn 5, and Granqvist loses the lead for the first time in the net order, the first time of this entire race weekend. Can we see quickly what tyres Granqvist is on? That's something I'd be very, very interested to find out. It looks like hard tyres to me from this point of view. So Tyen there has clearly gone for something different. And I reckon Grankvist is going to try to run to the end of the race on those hards. Remember, he ran... Oh, as I get the hiccups there. He ran very long at Silverstone. That was how he won the race there. Running a one-stop strategy where pretty much everyone else, with the exception of Robin Pantar, ran a two-stop. And I think he's aiming to do the same thing here today and make one less pit stop than the likes of Tyen, Schluter, Maguire, etc. and gain the race victory as a result of that one. And you know what? It might well work, because if anyone can pull it off, then Jan Grankvist absolutely can. But for the time being, Jan Grankvist leads this race. Mark Schluter looks as if he might be about to take second, but then again, wasn't close enough on that last lap, so who knows? Jeffrey Fournier, or Adam Maguire and Jeffrey Fournier on his tail. Tom Stevens right with them. Stepkowski not too far behind. In one of the most exciting and unpredictable races of the season, mostly due to the wild strategy options that we've seen being employed here today. But yes, Jarl Tyen leads the race, and he's about to break DRS from Jan Grankvist as well, which will leave Jan vulnerable to Mark Schluter behind, Ryan.
Yeah, can't believe that Tyen's managed to get into this position, really. I think if Grankvist might have pitted one lap earlier, he wouldn't have been under so much pressure coming out of the pits, but he knows what he's doing. He's going for something completely different. He kind of wants to run his own race here. I don't think he's going to be too bothered about Tyen kind of leading at this point, but you know, we'll see. It's still time for it all to unfold. Maybe Jarl's got some master plan that he's cooking up.
Indeed. Aviation said the gap was about 7 seconds on the first stop, 3.5 seconds on the second, and now they've swapped. And yeah, that is entirely true. I don't think it tells the full story of the race, though. The reason that Grankvist has gone for something so different is because he's been allowed to by the gap that he built up so early on in the race. So, as Jarl Tyen sets the fastest lap, remember you get an extra point for that if you finish the race with the fastest lap. It's like the world's fastest game of hot potato. But anyway, yeah, back to the Jan Grankvist situation. The reason he dropped back in the second stint is because he was on harder tyres than Tyen. He felt that he could run those. And look at Mark Schluter now gaining that upper hand and going through on the inside. So Schluter gets through into second position ahead of Jan Grankvist, but we expected this to happen. So Jan Grankvist fans out there, do not panic. He can still win the race from here. And look at Maguire now up the inside. Maguire dives. He had to be a little bit rude there with Jan Grankvist, but I think that makes sense because remember, he's trying to help his teammate Tom Stevens to do well in this race and the remainder of this championship. And look at Stevens around the outside. What a move! What a fantastic overtake from Tom Stevens to take advantage in a bit of the circuit that is not reserved for overtaking. That's a stage on the track where you just want to keep up with your rivals, let alone go through. But go through he did, and that will put Grankvist slightly further on the back foot than he otherwise would have been. The move of the race so far there from Tom Stevens. But yeah, again, with Jan Grankvist, the fact he had such a gap at the start means that whatever we're seeing from him now, we have to take with a pinch of salt, because he's put himself in a position where he can potentially make this two-stop strategy work and still potentially win the race. But I am, again, saying that with a pinch of salt. We've got a long way to go. We're only 2/3 of the way through this race, and it's currently Jarl Tyen leading from Mark Schluter, Adam Maguire, Tom Stevens, Jan Grankvist, Jeffrey Fournier, Daniel Stepkowski, Chris Shepherd, Robin Panzer, and Shimon Frelich, with the other points finishers, if it was to finish like this, being Pascal Polens, Jörg-Pekka Lalu, Dennis Urban, Remco de Joux, and Stein Hangraf. And of course, Fabio Sixter, not far outside of that either. Well, 22 seconds is a bit of a way outside of that, but only one position out of the points. And who knows what else could happen for the rest of this race. So, I know I said before the race, leave your predictions in the YouTube chat, but to be honest, I think it's still just as up in the air now as it was then. Who do you think is going to pull this off? Will Tyen be able to accelerate away and get enough of an advantage to challenge Grankvist at the end? Or will Jan Grankvist run long on these hard tyres, get it to the end of this race and hold off the challenging field? What is going to happen in the last third of this race? The answer is we simply do not know, and we can't possibly know until it happens right in front of our eyes, Ryan.
Yeah, he should be going to the end on these tyres, but something to note is that he is going to have to go longer than we've seen him do previously, so it'd be a longer stint, but obviously the fuel load's getting less and less as we go along, so it should be a bit easier for him to conserve these tyres. But it was an interesting call when you consider that we saw how badly Fletcher at that point in the race, before obviously DNF'd, was struggling on these hard tyres. If I was his race engineer, I would have maybe tried to convince him out of it. I know that it'll come good a lot later on, but them tyres didn't look fantastic, and we've seen him, you know, drop like a fly. Really, he's lost several seconds. A little bit riskier than I'd have probably wanted to go for.
Some interesting analysis from Ed Hunter, saying it feels like an unnecessary risk from Jan. I'd have gone for the softs. It's a brave move, and unnecessary may actually be a word for it, because the thing is, he was leading the race quite considerably anyway, so if he'd gone for the same strategy as the other drivers, then logic says he probably would have been able to fend them off. But you never know that, especially since the others pitted before him. Maybe he was too scared of the undercut being pulled off against him. And here is Adam Maguire now going for a move on Mark Schluter around the outside, and he goes through into second position. So Maguire passes Mark Schluter in a very important overtake. And there was a brief yellow flag there, and I think Dennis Urban's just dropped to the back, but he did pit recently, so I don't know if that was Dennis Urban there. I'll try to work that out as we go along. Anyway, good move from Adam Maguire. There's some fresh dark tyre marks on the exit of turn 3, so something's happened there. And I think we were watching a replay because we're back to real time. But anyway, and here is, well, Maguire went a little bit defensive there, tried to break the toe of Schluter down the straight, stop him from getting that slipstream and potentially being able to fight for a move. We've got the live championship standings on the bottom right. Of course, if they were to finish like this, then Jan Grankvist would be crowned champion, and Mark Schluter would take second in the standings as a result of having passed Tom Stevens on the road. But still a long way to go in this race. Goodness me. We need to take a breather at some point. It's a shame we can't have kind of like a mid-race break at any point, but, you know, it's been too exciting for that. We've been swept off our feet the whole way through. There hasn't been a moment to rest for either us or the drivers. But yeah, I was saying about Ed's analysis of this race so far, saying Jan is discovering the same issues that Fletcher and Lalu ran into on the hards. I have to say, I don't think the hards are as bad as Fletcher or Lalu made them seem. I think that Fletcher especially was having other issues, especially with control out there, and I think he may have had some damage after his collision with with McGorgy. I was distracted because I saw Jeffrey Fournier coming into the pits just then, pitting from 6th position in this race. But yeah, I really don't think the hards are that bad, because you've also got to compare it to Grankvist's previous stint in this race, where he did 23 laps on the hard tyres. Yes, he was dropping back at the start. Yartime was definitely catching him. But towards the end of the stint, he was pulling away again. You know, he was definitely running that tyre as well at the end of the stint as he was at any other point in the race. And yes, he has to do 25 laps on those tyres now rather than the 23 he's just run. But he's also lighter on fuel, so it's easier to run longer on your tyres. I think Jan Grankvist is still in a pretty good position here, and I think that if the hard tyres were as bad as maybe Sergio Fletcher made them look, then Jukka-Pekka Lalu, who's also been on the tyres, would have reported that back to the team, and they would have advised Jan Grankvist on what had happened. So here are, well, that's the cause for the tyre marks. Dennis Urban having a big spin and just stopping shy of the barriers, so getting rather lucky there. But he's done that on quite fresh tyres, so unfortunately the tyres not quite as fresh as he maybe would have liked them. Anyway, the race continues. We're over 2/3 of the way into the race now. The race that should see Jan Grankvist wrap up his first GPVWC World Championship, despite taking a really brave call on strategy. But we do still have 27, 28 laps to go in this race. And it is still anyone's game. Tyen could win it, Maguire could win it, Schluter, Stevens. Jan Grankvist is another real dark horse in this one. And don't rule out attrition and chaos even right up until the end, the very last lap of this race, Ryan.
Yeah, you don't want to rule things out yet. There's still plenty of time left to go in this race and plenty of changes to happen. Obviously still a pit stop as well for most of these guys to squeeze in somewhere. I can imagine the next lap or next few laps, sorry, we're going to start seeing people, especially these front four, boxing. Probably the first to jump out of the entire pack will be Stepkowski in 6th, I'd imagine. He seems to have been the earlier pitter on almost every occasion so far. The undercut hasn't quite worked as well for some of these guys around here. Hasn't been as strong, but out of these front four, if I was the one, if I was any of those guys, I'd actually probably rather be Schluter right now. I know that sounds weird, but
Interesting.
THR guys won't want to go against themselves, if you know what I mean. They won't want to have to pull any team orders if Tyen's leading and someone else boxes before him or whatever. So I'd rather either be Tyen or Schluter. Schluter can kind of do what he wants without annoying one of his teammates.
Well, you're right to bring up that Jarl Tyen for Nocturne. Nocturne is the same organization as THR. They're kind of the same group, sister teams, and obviously separate entities in the team's championship. And they are racing for themselves out there, but at the same time, I'm sure if Tyen could influence the championship in the direction of Tom Stevens, or influence the race in the direction of either of the THRs or himself, then he absolutely would. But yeah, I mean, you're right to say that Mark Schluter is kind of the odd one out in this group, but I think that probably helps the THR Nocturne group more than it helps Mark Schluter. And realistically, if I was in the situation of any of these drivers, I'd want to be in the situation of either Jan Grankvist or Jarl Tyen, as here's a move. And there's contact, and Schluter goes around. There's contact with Tom Stevens. What a dramatic mistake there for the two drivers fighting for second in the championship. They've rejoined the road just in front of Jan Grankvist, actually, and into the pits now comes Mark Schluter. Wow, that was a dramatic turn of events there, which has pretty much taken Stevens and Schluter out of contention for this particular race. Stevens is only just ahead of Jan Grankvist there. And that was a really unfortunate collision where they just locked tyres. There was a misjudgment for one of them, or maybe both of them, heading into the corner. We'll have to see a replay of that. But that little chicane there, which caused such controversy last year with the collision between Stevens and Jake Dennehan, has once again caused palaver, as we've seen Mark Schluter coming into contact with Tom Stevens. And here's a replay of what has just occurred. One of the most dramatic moments of the championship so far. It's Schluter ahead. Stevens goes for the move up the inside. Is he far enough alongside? Considering the...
No.
Okay, well, that's your opinion. I was going to say, considering the the heft of the situation we've just seen, I'm not sure I'm going to comment on whether or not he was far enough alongside, whether or not his opponent should not have turned in, but there was contact between the two of them. They've both been badly affected by that, and I don't think we will see Tom Stevens or Mark Schluter winning this race today. And they will probably struggle to finish on the podium now after that one. What a dramatic incident, Ryan.
Yeah, we've also gone again now yellow in sector 2. Is that Chris Shepherd that's losing? And
Shepherd's out. Well, that means that our philosophy earlier on with finish and you will score is coming true, because we now only have 15 drivers left in the race. Chris Shepherd is the most recent casualty for Edge Esports, the team that came into this in a bit of a nudge off the wall there for Jan Grankvist. Hopefully no damage for him. And that now means that this is the race for the lead with Stevens alongside. So Tyne must have pitted that last time around then. I didn't see that. So Tyne, Maguire, etc. have now made their pit stops. And that means that this is the race for the lead between Stevens and Jan Granqvist. And if Granqvist goes through, then all he will need to do is fend off Jarl Tyne, who's 14.5 seconds behind him now, but will be on fresher tyres. And that looked like fresh wheel marks down into, or fresh tyre marks down into that corner there. I think that's probably where Chris Shepherd had his accident. And this is an opportunity for Jan Granqvist because he'll get the DRS. Will Granqvist retake the lead of the race on his way to his World Championship swan song? We'll get another opportunity here, more DRS, but this is where the collision happened a lap ago, so hopefully they'll be okay. Through the chicane, Tom Stevens will probably make a pit stop very soon. He's got the chicane all wrong again. And into the pits comes Stevens. So Jan Granqvist does now lead the race. And Stevens will be lucky to come out anywhere near the likes of Mark Schluter after the incident that we saw. Jarl Tyne will go through to second for sure. Adam Maguire will go through to third. There they go. So this is the charge. And we'll have to keep an eye on the lap times that are able to be set by Jarl Tyne and Adam Maguire. And it's very close on pit exit there between Stevens and Fournier. And Fournier gets out ahead of Tom Stevens. Fournier, the reason that he got a time penalty last race was because of an unsafe release in the pits. And he's pulled over there. Oh, it was... I don't think that was Fournier, was it? I think that might have been Fabio Sixter. Oh, it was Fournier. Where did he... Oh, it was Sixter. No, my apologies.
Yeah,
My apologies.
Sixter, yeah.
So Fabio Sixter there pulls over to let the leaders through. That confused me because I was looking at the timing screen and it was saying that Fournier was ahead of Stevens, which indeed he is, but he's not right ahead of them. It was the other Epic Racing Team car that we were looking at with Fabio Sixter going through. So Remco de Joux into the pits now, and we're about to see a replay, presumably of what's happened to Chris Shepherd. He's on the tail of a Holland Racing Team car. Probably about to crash on his own though. Loses the rear. Only a little dink off the wall, so probably not enough. I think he's lost the engine, hasn't he? He's in neutral. And Chris Shepherd out of the race. So 15 cars remaining now, and every single car who finishes this race will score points towards the Drivers' and Teams Championship, Ryan.
It was a weird one. We didn't lose lots and lots of cars at once in like a major pile-up on lap 1 or whatever. It's been very slow and steady burner of cars this race.
Chris Shepherd says, should have been in top 5 from P18. Time to retire. Concentration levels just go walkies. Steering was well bent before that, so just retired. Fair enough, fair enough. So there was already damage before the incident, and we just saw the very bitter end of that. That reminds me, I would like to come to my own defense, actually, because during the Formula Sprint 2 round at Baku, you saw a very embarrassing accident for me on the broadcast. But I would like to put the record straight and say that I already had damage due to, I got punted down into turn 1. I won't tell you who did it, but I did get punted into turn 1, and my car was already damaged and handling poorly, and that's why I crashed. So there's my very, very late, 3-week late racing driver's excuse for you as to why you saw me having an embarrassing crash on live stream. And Chris Shepherd has obviously been able to set the record straight away in terms of his accident today. But anyway, we have 13 laps to go in this race, and this is the most important time to keep track of the lap time. So I'm going to get my raceview.com up and ready so I can have a look at how Jarl Tyne is doing in relation to Jan Granqvist. His last lap was 0.7 of a second faster. There are 12 laps to go. It would be close. Yeah, it would be close. I'm not sure he would be able to get past him, but he'd be right on his tail by the end of the race. Oh, this is interesting stuff. So now the question is, can Jan Granqvist respond to that and push harder? Does he need to? Because of course it's one thing to catch a driver and another thing to pass them. Or can Jarl Tyne find even more pace and catch up to the back of Jan Grankvist in order to challenge for the victory here. Which is it going to be? We will find out in just over 11 laps time. So, Jan Grankvist leading by 9 seconds now. You can visually see the gap coming down. Dennis Urban going for points on the back of Remco de Joux. If he does complete, I think, how much of the race do you need to complete to be classified as a finisher? I think it's 90%. So if Dennis Urban does complete 90% of the race, I believe this will be his first points finish in GPVWC Super League. I'll just get that up. Yeah, this would be, because it's only his 4th race. He finished 16th in his first race at Britain, only just missed out on points. Did get the fastest lap to show for his efforts, but unfortunately, you only get a point for the fastest lap if you finish in the top 15. But of course, that meant that that means that today, if he does complete this race, or enough of it to be classified, then he will end up scoring a point as a result of that. And his first that he can be very, very proud of, because it has been a very tough day of racing here on the streets of Marina Bay. Just ask Adam Maguire, who has been fighting with other drivers all the way through this one. If it's not his own teammate, then he's been fighting with the likes of Fournier and Tyen and Schluter. He's on the back of Tyen now. He'll be getting sick of the sight of the sister team's car. He'll be able to tell you every detail of that rear wing and rear diffuser, and the exact shade of the light that's showing on the back of the car ahead of him. Sparks flying in his face as well. I can't imagine that's particularly healthy after a long time. I know I know racing helmets are pretty solid, but I'm sure it's probably not ideal to have literal sparks flying into your face for an hour and a half. Again, we complete another lap, so let's take a look at what the lap times are between them. Fastest lap, by the way, was just set by Tom Stevens, so he's on course for what would be a point. Well, an extra point. He's already in the points, but you know what I mean. And the gap came down by 9/10 of a second, so that means that as they crossed the start-finish line, they were separated by just 7.5 seconds. That will fluctuate as the lap goes along due to the braking and acceleration zones, but 7.5 seconds is the gap. 9/10 of a second is the gap that he was gaining. And of course, again, it means he'll be right on the back of them by the end of the race. He will be right there, but it is one thing to catch and another thing to pass. And we're watching Jan Grankvist now. One mistake could end this race. One mistake could decide it in the direction of either driver, because both of them are pushing hard here. You see, sometimes when you're in the lead like this, and you're being caught, and you know that you're going to be caught by the end of this race, it's actually better not to push too hard, because at least then you'll end up with the tyre life that you can use to fight your opponents. You know, it reminds me of the French Grand Prix a couple of years ago with Hamilton and Verstappen, where one of them was told, don't push, even though he was being caught at a rapid rate of knots, because you've got to have the rear tyres to fight him when he catches you. And that ended up being the decisive factor in that particular race. And it could well end up being the same today. Again, we'll take a look at the lap times. Jarl Tyen completes a lap, followed very closely by Adam Maguire. The gap was a whole second! A whole second was taken out by Jarl Tyen that last time around. And if he keeps that up, he will absolutely catch him before the end. Fabio Sixta now sets the fastest lap of the race, so he's on course for an extra point. That would double the points he would take from this race, because of course, 15th place is a single point. And there are the live standings that still show Mark Schluter taking second in the championship, and they still show Jan Grankvist being crowned world champion in the best possible way by taking a win on the streets of Singapore. Brian, what a race we've seen so far, but as we get into the closing stages, it's not looking as good for Jan Grankvist as it did maybe at the start.
Yeah, he seems to really drop time one lap and then manage it another. It's a bit all over the place, but that gap's come down quite aggressively in the last two, and he'll do a good job to hang on to it, I think, from Tyan. I think saw somebody doubting Tyan in the YouTube chat, saying he might struggle to do 3 for 3, obviously ignoring the fact that he got the penalty in the last one, but looking fairly strong at the moment. It's just the oversave that's going to be the hard part.
Yeah, it would be 3 from 3 in the last. Well, it would be 3 from 3 on the track, but of course, he did get that penalty.
That's what I mean.
Look at that. If they were, is that accurate there? 186 points exactly for both Schluter and Stevens. So they would be dead even on points after this one, and Schluter would just be ahead on countback, I believe. But yeah, fantastic stuff there. Now, if you're wondering why Jarl Tyan is just 7th in the championship, considering the last 3 races he's been clearly the most competitive driver, at least on average, for the last 3 Grand Prix, it's because he has not done the full season of racing. He would have liked to. He's told us that he would like to do more GPWC, and the only reason that he hasn't is because he sometimes works Thursday evenings, and that of course means that we don't necessarily know if he will be able to race at Kota or Interlagos. So every race that Jarl Tyan does, we can't exactly take for granted, because it might well be his last of the year. And if he can win this one, then that would send him out in style. And on that last lap, he again took time out of Jan Grankvist. And again, it was over a second. Goodness me. I think at this point, Jarl Tyan is the favourite to win this race. I would not have said that when he made his pit stop. I still secretly thought that Jan Grankvist would do a Silverstone, and there's still, of course, a chance that he might. But at this point, you got to say, with the pace that Jarl Tyan's showing, and the lack of pace that Grankvist has been able to show to him in response, this is all on Jarl Tyan now, isn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, it's certainly in his hands, but as long as he don't cook his tyres, that's the one worry, is that he gets to him at like lap 60, 61, and he's got nothing left. He's only had enough tyre to catch him up. So, let's see.
So Ryan, Tyan has crossed the line yet again. It's got a lovely ring to it when I say it like that. And again takes 7 tenths out of Jan Grankvist. The gap now under 4 seconds. And we have just 7 laps to go in this race. He's going to get him. He's going to at least fight with him before the end of this one. And Adam Maguire is right there as well. We've been talking about Jarl versus Jan, but Adam Maguire, you know, he's actually doing the right thing by not attacking Jarl Tyan here, because it means that they are going to catch Jan Grankvist without a shadow of a doubt. The really important thing for Adam is that he will need to get through Jan Grankvist when and if Jarl Tyan does, because otherwise, if they end up with Jan Grankvist splitting the two of them, then that will allow Jarl to get away. But if he can attack as soon as they catch Jan Grankvist and treat it as a little bit of a free-for-all, who's to say he won't come out on top and snatch this victory from the jaws of defeat? It would be quite something if he did, since we really haven't spoken that much about the THR drivers today, with the exception of a few little bumps and scrapes they've had, like Stevens locking wheels with Schluter. By the way, Stevens is right back on the tail of Schluter now, so hopefully that all goes well.
Yeah, I think regardless of what happens in this scrap for what's going to be the lead, it won't affect Schluter and Stevens. I think they're too far back, so I think they'll be given free rein, Maguire and Tyan, to battle between themselves and Grankvist when it comes to it. The only thing we have to consider now is teams championship points as well.
Yeah.
There's a chance they could get a few extra points in. It's not been a... Obviously the win for SV is good, but obviously P9 for Lalu isn't as strong. So if they probably are still overall gaining points, but if they could get like a P2 or even P1 with Maguire, that would definitely boost their points.
Ed Hunter says if Maguire gets through, then it could be big for the team's championship. Yes, indeed, it very much could. And of course, Jarl Tyan, we'll also hope for that, because he is helping out THR in the team's championship. THR still have a good chance of taking it away from Super Venturi, and I would say at this point probably are the favourites in this championship. Out of turn 3 they go. You can visually see the gap closing because Jan Grankvist is just up there. When we get to the straight, there he is. Look at that, they've caught him. They've pretty much caught up to the back of him. By the end of this lap, they'll be within the DRS range. His last lap, 1.3 seconds faster than Jan was Jarl Tyen. He's 1.5 seconds back, there's 5 laps to go. And I love the phrase that Aviation's just put in the chat. He says, Jan's going to be a sleeping fish. See, usually I'd say sitting duck, but sleeping fish is, I mean, it tells the same story. I very much like that phrase there. I don't know if that's maybe a multilingual thing, but I've never heard that phrase before. But anyway, a sleeping fish indeed. Jarl Tyen is now within DRS range of Jan Grankvist, or he was very briefly. Does he open the DRS this time? He does! Jarl Tyen has DRS from Jan Grankvist. The race for the lead is on. I don't think that Jan Grankvist is going to be able to hold on to this unless Jarl Tyen and Adam Maguire make a mistake or eat up their tyres before they get past him somehow. Maybe an insane defensive drive from Jan Grankvist is possible, but is it really on the cards with so many, well, relatively so many laps to go? We're about to start lap 59 of 62, so 4 laps including this one, and much, much faster cars on his tail. It's like being hunted down by a pack of wolves. Here we go, the exit of turn 3. Jarl Tyen nearly jacking up the rear of Jan Grankvist's car, using up all of the track and nearly more of it as well through turn 4. DRS wide open. We're on board with Jarl Tyen as he looks to go for the lead of this race. Adam Maguire is right there. Into the left-hander. Over the curb. 90-degree right-hander as well. A difficult braking zone. Now we're going to head down. This corner, I believe, is called Padak or something. Padang, I believe. And then this is where the Singapore Sling used to be. Still sometimes referred to as the Singapore Sling for old time's sake. And the Anderson Bridge with the left-handed hairpin. Onto another DRS straight. This is the straight where he obtained DRS for the first time a lap ago. He's less than a quarter of a second back. It's not worth going for an insane dive bomb. You'd probably mess it up at this point. So you've got to line him up properly. Now down towards the chicane, you can see Jarl Tyen, and he's going for the move. He's going for the move up the inside. Does he get his braking right? He does not. He runs wide. He touches him. Grankvist spins, and he's beached. He's stopped right in front of Jarl Tyen. Through goes the pack. Maguire has taken the lead. Tyen waited for him to go through. That sportsmanship at least. But Grankvist drops to 4th. Tyen is 5th. Maguire leads from Schluter and Stevens. What drama! And again, it's another clumsy rejoin from a driver going wide at the chicane, and it's another collision caused by Jarl Tyen hitting a contender for the race win. Grankvist loses out. Goodness me.
Do I even have to say anything? Really? Is this the level that we're operating at? You know, it's a Super League. It's almost the end of the race, and this is the kind of overtake we're going on for the championship leader. I mean, that's crazy. The rejoins in that corner all round have been really, really poor. I'm not just pinning it on Jarl, but this has been really poor.
Now, just to very quickly address anyone's concerns, Aviation says he's still champion, right? Yes, if they were to finish like this, Jan Grankvist would still wrap up the championship. To lose the championship in this situation, he would have needed to drop to at least 10th position, with Stevens gaining 2nd. So he is still in championship winning contention, even though he is no longer on the podium. Stevens now has a chance of getting through to 2nd. He's fighting hard with Schluter. We're on lap 60 of 62. Stevens goes to the outside. And
both THRs are through, though, as well, now.
They are indeed. That's big for the team's championship.
Yeah, big for the team's championship.
Even if it probably won't decide the drivers' championship, it might decide the team's. And here is Jan Grankvist now, with Jarl Tyen having got through into 4th position. Now, I like to leave these things up to the stewards, because obviously it's them that have the final say, but I have to admit, I have not been particularly happy with Yartayan's driving recently, and this is not personal towards him whatsoever, and I do not encourage any harassment towards him or anything like that, but you have to remember that the last time he crossed the line in first position was last time out, where he punted Mark Schluter. Last year, he won the Italian Grand Prix, and I still maintain he probably should not have done on that day, having punted one of the Epic racing cars on that occasion as well. He did win a race earlier this year completely fairly, but unfortunately, I have to say I've seen way too many mistakes from Yartayan recently, and I do hope that he calms it down and that we see cleaner racing going forwards. It reminds me a lot of a situation that we found ourselves in about 2 years ago when Adam Maguire was getting a bit frustrated with people and going for moves that he wasn't entitled to. I truly believe that Adam has calmed down since then and improved as a driver. And I would like to say this to Jarl if he's listening to us now. I know that he can do better than that. He's an experienced driver, but there's always time to learn. Meanwhile, we're back at this fight for second position. Mark Schluter versus Tom Stevens as we're heading towards... we are heading on to the final lap of the race now. Adam Maguire leads this race by 5 seconds. He will surely win this race now. There's another yellow flag out there somewhere. Come on, guys, get it to the finish. We're so close now. So Adam Maguire continues to lead. There is still a fight for second, which is very important for second in the Drivers' Championship. Yartayan will get fourth, and then Jan Granqvist will be relegated to fifth position, but is still on his victory lap as far as the World Championship is concerned. Fabio Sixter retires on the last lap of the race, but I have to say I don't think that's going to cost him any points, because he still completed at least 90% of the race and will still get fastest lap, I think, unless
Jeff's
someone...
gone as well.
Has he? Oh, he
Sorry,
has.
yes.
Jeffrey Fournier out from 11th. What has happened on the final lap of the race with both Epic racing cars disappearing from the order? Well, that's dramatic and unfortunate as well. We're only going to get 13 cars crossing the finish line. My goodness. Okay. Well, let's continue to watch this scrap for second, because they've only got a few more corners to go, and we'll have to pay attention to see if we can catch Adam Maguire winning this race. It's actually been a really good drive from Adam Maguire amongst all of the chaos. He's avoided all of this and come through to take the lead despite the drama. And this is the last opportunity that Stevens might have. Oh, tried to line him up, but Schluter gets the corner and he will get second. But let's take a look at Adam Maguire as he wins his second Grand Prix of the season, the Singapore Grand Prix. A fantastic drive. It's actually only his first win of the season, because he was second in Italy, and that was his best result up until this point. So Adam Maguire breaks his duck and wins his first race of the season. But there is the champion, Jan Granqvist, by finishing in 5th position despite the carnage, despite nearly being taken completely out of the race, has won his first GPVWC Super League Championship. And I have to say it is very well deserved for Super Jan, who does a donut into the barrier and crashes his car in the process. But who cares, because he does not need that car anymore. He has won this championship through simple consistency and brilliance. He's won 5 races. He won in Saudi, he won in Japan, he won China, Britain and Germany. And with 2 races to go, he can relax and drive it home, stroke it home from this point. Just enjoy the last 2 rounds of the season. There are the live standings on the bottom right. Granqvist wins the championship provisionally. Schluter is now up into 2nd in the standings ahead of Stevens. Maguire moves up into 4th place in the standings as a result of this first victory of the season. He was the highest placed driver without a victory before this race, which is why I thought that he had won one before, but not quite. Robin Panzer 5th in the standings. Carlos Martin holds on to 6th despite missing this round. Yartayan moves up into 7th, although I have to say, yet again, there's another question mark over whether or not he will have a penalty incoming. Matthias Moos still 8th despite missing this round. Magorgi 9th, and then Lalu is 10th in the championship standings. And THR will gain massively in the teams championship as a result of this. Now here's a replay. Fabio Sixter, tell you what, he's relative. Oh, he's got into the back of his teammate. So that's why they both retired. Fabio Sixter was a lap down. Was that a brake failure? Now you sometimes see that this late on in the... Now watch the brakes. He plows into the corner. Oh dear. Well, he tried to bail out of it. You saw him going to the left. I think that was a brake failure for Fabio. Oh, goodness, it's ironic for Epic Racing that it had to be Geoffrey Fournier waiting there to be taken out. They weren't even on the same lap of the race. Both Epic Racing team cars out on the last lap. It will cost them points for Geoffrey Fournier. I don't think it'll cost Fabio any points. But anyway, that's that. 13 cars crossing the finish line at the end. Here's a replay of Tyen's eventual move. No, this is where he got it wrong. So this is where Tyen rejoined into the side of Jan Granqvist. And I tell you what, great avoiding action from Adam Maguire. He fully deserves to win this race just on the merit of that avoiding action, because he could very easily have been involved in that accident as well. And here's a replay of this blatantly clumsy move from Jarl Tyen. And I was trying to be diplomatic about it at Azerbaijan. I was trying to defend his... Whoa! And great avoidance from Schluter as well. But yeah, I was trying to be diplomatic about it at Azerbaijan, but this time around, Jarl Tyen surely has to be given a penalty for that.
I'm not gonna try and back Jarl Tyen up, but he could have very easily taken the front wing of Jan there if he'd not got on the brakes as quickly when Jan was spun.
Yep, credit where credit's due.
Doesn't excuse it, if you know what I mean.
Credit where credit's due. It could have been better. It could have been worse, and I'm glad he held the brakes. But even so, that collision was blatantly his fault, and I'm sure that the stewards will back me up on that one. But again, I say that from an unbiased point of view, where I just want to see clean racing, and I don't commend any harassment or harmful feelings towards Jarl Tyen as a result of that. Everyone makes mistakes, and I just hope that lessons can be learned from the last couple of races. So that is the end of a very dramatic Singapore Grand Prix, but please make sure you stick around because we will be talking to several of our contenders from this one. Actually, first of all, let's take a look at the so here we go. The unofficial results. I say unofficial because there is still time to make protests and penalties. But Adam Maguire will undoubtedly be the race winner here, and very deservedly so. Mark Schluter second. Tom Stevens is third. Remember that extremely brave maneuver he pulled on Jan Granqvist earlier on in this race. I just want to remind everyone of that so it stays fresh in the memory, because he deserves a podium after that one. Jarl Tyen is fourth, but again, question marks over that. Jan Granqvist fifth, wins the championship with that one, and we will very shortly talk to him about that. Daniel Stepkovsky gets sixth, a pretty good race for him actually, even though it was quite a quiet one. Robin Panzer P7, then Jakub-Pekka Lalu bringing home some points for Super Venturi. Pascal Pollens P9, Shimon Frelich P10 despite a spin on the first lap. Good recovery drive from the TOP esports driver. Stein Hangraf P11, Remco de Joux P12. Geoffrey Fournier maintains 13th despite his crash. Dennis Urban will be 14th as a result of being a lap down. And Fabio Sixto will also be classified and should score a point or two as a result of that. I say a point or two because I think he had fastest lap, but I've been a bit too busy to check these last few laps actually. And then, of course, you get those retirements. And to be honest, there's too many of them for me to read out. But you can see them there on your screen. And unfortunately, those drivers could well have scored points if they'd just been able to keep going in this race. And that shows you just why it's always best to keep going if you can and never give up. I will highlight quickly, Magorgi there out of the race. The winner of the last Grand Prix at Azerbaijan. What could he have done if he'd continued on in this race? But yes, an extremely dramatic Grand Prix, and we will now go to our interview room because... Actually, I'm being hurriedly told to wait by Vince Gutt, so okay, we'll wait a second. We'll take a look at the calendar first. You can see the final two rounds of the championship coming up. The United States Grand Prix at COTA will take place in just 2 weeks' time. That will be a fun one. COTA always is. It's a very varied track with fast bits and slow bits and bits based on other circuits. Elevation changes as well, like that massive hill going up into turn 1. And even though the championship is wrapped up, there's definitely an opportunity or definitely a reason to tune in to that one. Vince, are we ready for the interviews now? Very good. Okay. So we can now say congratulations to Super Jan Granqvist, who is our 2024 GPVWC Super League World Champion. Jan, how do you feel?
Decent.
Come on, Jan. Don't do a Silverstone on me.
Well, to be honest, I really wanted to win this one, and it got a bit messy at the end. So it's I don't know. It still hasn't hit me that I've won the championship. So I'm neither happy, neither sad.
Well, I hope it'll hit you eventually, because this has been a very well-deserved victory, with 5 victories so far in this championship, and potentially more to come if you push hard at Kota and Interlagos. But you should be very, very proud of yourself, my friend. We'll get on to what happened today in a minute. But first of all, I really do want you to soak this in, because yes, you were always going to win the championship today. You almost couldn't lose it. But you still did your absolute best. You still got that pole position. You still led the majority of this race, and you still have those 5 wins to think about early in this season. Can you allow yourself at least a little bit of a smile?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we'll get on to what happened to today then. So you started on pole position alongside Sergio Fletcher. You had 2 tenths of a second of an advantage at the start, but you just seemed to pull away. Nobody could keep up with you in the early stages. What was going on there? And well, where did it all go wrong after that?
Well, initially I think I was just pushing way harder than the others. I think the others were trying to maybe keep the soft tires for a bit longer than what I had in mind originally. And then, well, I think Owen was also just slowing down the pack quite a bit. He wasn't really going too quick. I know people in that pack certainly would have had the pace to at least get a bit closer to where I was. Certainly the likes of Jarl and the guys at THR. But yeah, it was the plan to run away. That was the chance that I had. So everyone was stuck in that pack. It's difficult to overtake in Singapore. And well, the way that I lost a very likely looking win was just THR had a really good strategy, which we hadn't thought about. We seemed to disagree a lot on which tires work with THR. And for them, it was the medium tires that worked, and the hard tires were bad. And for us, it was the other way around. The hard tires were working, but the medium tires just wouldn't work at all. So yeah, that was unexpected how much pace they had in the end with those tires. It caught me off guard, and yeah, it did culminate to what would have been a really exciting final few laps.
Well, you said you were surprised by the strategy, that you weren't expecting them, but you were pretty much the only person to do the strategy that you pulled off. So was that always the plan, or did you at least notice that drivers were going for a 3-stop strategy as it happened?
No, it was always going to be the plan, the 2-stopper on the hards for us. We ran our race sims earlier, and it was just clearly there's no other way for us to keep up that kind of pace in the race. So we stuck with it, and I mean, we thought that we would have had the upper hand on the others, but THR proved me wrong once again.
Well, that's all well and good. Unfortunately, it didn't end in the happiest of ways. What did you make of that collision with Jarl?
Yeah, I was very unhappy. I don't even know what at the. Let's just say, I don't mind Jarl, but holy crap, that was horrendous. That rejoin. I just don't have any other words.
Well, I have to say I agree with you, Jan, but unfortunate anyway, and I very much still think you should be happy with your performance. Today, you were definitely fast out there, and even if you can forget today, the whole championship, 5 victories, you've wrapped it up with 2 races to spare. How are you going to treat those 2 races, these last 2 races of the season?
I'm definitely going to have some fun with it. Magnus, a friend of mine, has suggested the whole season for me to at least once do a back of the grid challenge, so maybe I might entertain him with one of those. Who knows?
Why not, I guess? Yeah, I mean, if I was going to do it, I'd do it at Interlagos. You can absolutely overtake there, and I think it's a great way to end the year. So I'd actually encourage you to do that at this point. I mean, depends on the team championship standings, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah, after today, I think we're gonna chill out a bit more and take it as it comes. See what the performance is like in Kota, and then yeah, maybe we can have some fun with back of the grid.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, congratulations on your victory today. Well, your championship victory today, your world championship here at GPVWC Super League. Who do you have to thank for this success?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I should thank, well, first and foremost, Lalo for obviously being a good teammate to me the whole season. He hasn't missed a race and hasn't really put that much of a foot wrong. He's always there, being consistent. And then the Adonis boys, they've been always sort of there. We've been sharing information with each other throughout the season on best strategies, and working with each other has been fun. Robin Pansar, big shout out to him, and also Janos Backshot and Sergio Fletcher. They've been nice people to work with, and I'm sure they'd say the exact same words back to me. So yeah, it's been a good season working with these guys, and yeah, it's been fun.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Jan. Ryan, do you have any words for our new world champion?
Nothing other than congratulations. Like I say, it was a shame that it happened the way it did with the incident, but you can still have your head held high. And do we think we're going to get a special livery? That's one thing I wanted to ask.
Well, there is certainly something cooking up. I think Marco is more in charge of what might be seen in Kota, and then I have something in mind for Interlagos, but you have to wait and see what that is all about.
There we go. Can't wait.
Well, congratulations, Jan, and yeah, best of luck in the next two races, even though they matter to your team a lot more than you.
Thank you.
All right then. So we unfortunately don't have our race winner lined up in the chat. That's a bit of a shame. I'd like to speak to him if at all possible. We do have second place Mark Schluter. Mark, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yes, doing very, very well, thanks. That was a bit of a tense race. I'm going to be exhausted afterwards, but whoa, what a day. Mark, second place in the end. A little bit unexpected, but you really had to fight for that one. Talk us through it if you can.
Yeah, I mean, the start was pretty good. Try to not lose DRS pretty much. Try to save tires a bit. In the end, I didn't get why Jan was doing two stop, because we caught him very quickly in the end. I didn't expect that, to be honest. After his like 5, 6, 7 seconds gap in the beginning, but yeah, I mean the pace was good, but for some reason our tire wear is still not at the level of THR. We need to look into it, because Kota is tire wear heavy, even though we have the hardest compounds there. But yeah, we need to look into it.
Fair enough. But it seemed to run well for you today. One thing I noticed is that you were much stronger at the end of the race than you were at the start, really gaining positions, especially with all of the attrition today. Do you think you just maybe maintained that concentration better than other people, or is it to do with tires and the way the car itself was running?
Might be a setup dependent or the car, but yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I was only focusing on trying to stay in the DRS, and I think Owen and Fletcher were kind of slow. Was feeling I was being held up, but couldn't really pass them. So yeah, kind of unfortunate. I think I might have been able to stay with Jan if I have started behind him, but yeah, that's just wishful thinking, I guess. We never know.
Well, even so, the championship fight is on, at least for second place between you and Tom. You actually took second place there by finishing ahead of Tom at the end. Was that on your mind while you were fighting him during the race, or was it more just kind of individual honors?
I mean, I'm looking into it, but I'm kind of just focusing every race, trying to get the best result possible for a team. For me, of course, I want to finish second, because there was never, pretty much after Silverstone, I was saying, yeah, okay, P2 is still possible, P1 not. So let's at least get the P2 in the championship and maybe try and dethrone Jan in the next year.
And we've got to very briefly touch on that incident with Tom Stevens. How did you see that from your point of view?
I mean, his dive bomb was quite late, to be honest. I didn't really see where his tire were compared to mine. So I think it's just a racing incident, but we'll have to see what the stewards say if they are called up.
I noticed you were in the interview room together just now. Did you say anything to each other?
No.
Fair enough, probably better that way. Thanks, Mark, and well done on your second place finish. We will see you in the last 2 rounds of the championship.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we still don't have our race winner, but we can bring in third position, Tom Stevens. Tom, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, doing very well, thanks. Although pretty darn tired after that one. This was a long, long night. I'm sure it was pretty long for you as well. That was pretty dramatic. But anyway, we have to start by talking about. It was a bit of a recovery drive, wasn't it? 15th on the grid. I have to say, we did see that accident in qualifying. I'm sure you probably wished that we'd missed it. But what exactly happened there, and what was your thought process going into the race?
Well, qualifying was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. I just completely lost all form heading into it. Sometimes it happens, but yeah, it wasn't ideal. Got a banker in, which wasn't great, but I just couldn't stick a lap. That was just what happened today. I just couldn't do it. And it was so tight, unlike last year at Singapore. So every 10th, every 100th mattered, and I just couldn't stick it. And ultimately, I spun just trying to push it too hard, trying to claw everything out of it. But I wasn't improving anyway, so it was fine. So yeah, I was starting 15th on the grid. I was pretty annoyed, but I knew in this race we could definitely go forwards. And initially, I was very annoyed. I was like, why couldn't one more person just go ahead of me so I could start on the mediums? But ultimately, it actually paid back in my favour massively, because on the opening lap, I was on the outside starting P15. So I could just slingshot around the outside whilst there was a huge mess and disaster going up on the inside. So I'm glad I avoided that. I gained about 7 positions in the first few corners. And by the end of lap 1, I was up to 7th. So then I knew from then on, right, this is where I should have been anyway in qualifying. Now I can make the most of this race. So yeah, going forwards, race was pretty solid. Race pace was there, very happy with it. But yeah, we just kept marching forwards.
You did indeed, and it all came to blows in the end. There, you managed to pick your way through the rubble, but yeah, I imagine the podium was a little bit of a surprise at the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's always great to get a 1-2 for the team. Very happy with that. That would be something we haven't actually done before at THR, so very happy with it. I've got to thank everyone back in the team for all the hard work for this round. We've got a fantastic setup going. It just worked brilliantly today. So yeah, thanks Jarl, Adam, Toby, Moritz, everyone back at THR Nocturne. It's been a dream.
A 1-2 for the team. Are you anticipating a penalty for Mark?
Yeah, we got a 1-2 today.
Okay. I don't know how to respond to that, but I guess we'll see how that pays out. Anyway, congratulations on your podium, Tom, whichever position it ends up being. And we'll see you at the last 2 rounds of the championship. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that was Tom Stevens there. 3rd place on the road. We'll see what ends up happening with that one. Again, I would like to remind you that the results are provisional, but it is completely up to the stewards, and we'll have to wait and see what they think of the incident between Mark and Tom. I have been asked specifically by Toby Davis, who is, of course, involved in the THR squad, if he can join into the interview room on behalf of THR. Of course, he is primarily the Nocturne boss, but Chris Butcher is not available right now. And Toby, hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you, Caitlin?
I'm okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So obviously, I know you have some opinions on what's happened with Tom. But first of all, Adam Maguire, what a drive from him! He picked his way through, he picked it up, and I think he very much deserved that victory today.
I mean, that's what happens when you keep your nose clean, isn't it? You know, I mean, it was Jarl's race to lose, and he completely messed up overtaking Jan, ran wide, and then rejoined to the side of him. And as a result, Adam ended up picking up the pieces and winning the race. And obviously, you put yourself in that position. He had 40 seconds of push to pass left at that point, so I think he still would have done a good job of getting by them at that point anyway. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword for me today. Obviously, you know, we do have the wider group of Nocturne and THR, but it's great to have Adam win the race from that point of view. But I would have liked Jarl to have driven a lot better at that point and overtaken Jan cleanly and on the racetrack rather than what actually ended up happening. Jarl knows what he did. He immediately, you know, was gutted about it, and yeah, it's one of those things. So, but yeah, Adam did really well today, and generally we had a very strong race car today, if not quite so much in qualifying.
Yeah, I would like to point out, of course, that Jarl did wait for Jan, so he clearly knew that it was his fault from the beginning. Did he talk to you about it, about kind of why what happened, and what he's going to do about it?
So Jarl just missed his braking point, and then he had a choice of bouncing over the sausage curbs, and he didn't want to do that. He went, oh no, sausage curbs. Didn't want to bounce into Jan, he explained afterwards. And of course, by doing that, he had to stay on the track, and it ended up being kind of, it's one of them where if Jan knows he's going to rejoin across the curb, which you don't think he's going to, he probably gives him more room, but, you know, it's still completely Jarl's fault, unfortunately for Jarl. That was a race win that slipped through his fingers there for sure.
Yeah, and thank you for admitting that. I'm sure Jarl will improve from that as well. I'd also like to ask you about Tom. It was a very good recovery drive from him today. Very easily could have been a THR 1-2. You quite clearly blame Mark for the collision between the two of them.
Well, I haven't said anything yet. I mean, do you mean you as an overall group, or?
Yeah, and also you have explicitly texted me to say that you blame Mark for it.
I mean, that's behind the scenes, Caitlin. I mean, I would say very obviously that Mark has turned across the nose of Tom. He's just described it as a dive bomb, which is craziness. Considering the last round, Mark called a bunch of drivers out and said that he was the cleanest driver on the grid, and then today proceeded to drive Jarl off the track in the first stint, and then turn across the nose of Tom just now. You know, I let it go at the last round because ultimately I think Jarl was probably more at fault for what happened and deserved his penalty. But I do think that both incident today with Tom and the one at the last round with Jarl, Mark's just not looking in his mirrors. Both times he's turned across when the car has presented themselves there. Now, the one last round with Jarl, he showed his nose where it didn't belong. Tom was fully alongside today, and it was given absolutely no racing room at all. Chopped across his nose and spanned both cars, and Mark immediately pitted, and Tom obviously carried on, trying to make it to the end on the next set of softs, but that ultimately cost him that position on the road. But yeah, I have absolutely no doubt at all that will be a penalty for Mark today, and that'll be a 1-2 for THR.
I mean, obviously we have to wait and see, but you are of course entitled to your own opinion. Wow, spicy in the interview room here, and thank you for coming in to talk to us, Toby.
So I would say, you know, I will overall, Mark has been a great driver this season, and he's been a very solid competitor, and he is usually fair. But the last couple of races, and especially here, I don't know what was going on today, but yeah, not his best race. Not Jarl's either, by the way. So, you know, it's not just him. I can look at independent incidences. I don't have paint a picture across the whole season.
An unfortunate day for Nocturne as a whole as well, with Moritz Krop retiring.
Yeah, he had a disconnection, and it was a shame because he was on target for a top 10, but that's Moritz's season, unfortunately, in a nutshell.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for talking to us, Toby. And,
no problems.
I'm sure we'll end up speaking to you after one of the last 2 rounds of the season.
Yep, speak soon. Thank you.
All right, so I know we've got a lot of people in the interview room now, but if I'm going to disappoint, I mean, I've got to disappoint some of them, so I'm afraid we are going to have to go off there. But thank you all very much for listening to all of that. And thank you to everyone who we have just interviewed. Thank you to our stewards, and that's very much a thank you in advance, because I'm sure they're going to be quite busy after this one. And we very much appreciate the work that they are about to be lumped with. Thank you all for watching, as well as my my broadcaster, Ryan Elliott, and the broadcast director, Vincent Gutt. Ryan, goodness me, it's been a bit of a tough day, hasn't it? Been a very, very long one. How are you going to relax after this one?
Been a long day for me in general. I've done a 12-hour shift at work and then came straight on to do this, so I am going to go to bed. Unfortunately, I can't make the next one either, which is
Shame.
absolutely gutting. I feel like I've barely done half of these this year. I'm sure I have done way more than that, but I feel like I've been missing for more than I wanted to. But obviously, I'll be back for the final one, so can't wait for that.
All right. Well, we'll see you in 4 weeks' time. But of course,
Yes.
you, as in the audience, we will see in 2 weeks' time, or even sooner if you want to tune into any of our support categories. Of course, next Tuesday we have FS2. Next Thursday we have FS1. The Tuesday after that we have Super Lights. And then, of course, in 2 weeks' time from tonight, at the same time as always, 7:30 UK time, convert that to wherever you are, we will have Super League. I'm also just checking very, very quickly to see if we'll have an academy race in that time, because I'm never quite sure when they're scheduled for. Looks like we do actually have one on the Monday before the next Super League race, so look out for that as well. In the meantime, take it easy, and once again, congratulations to our brand new GPVWC Super League Drivers World Champion, Jan Grankvist.